Now I request our chairman, VP Secretary, to please do opening remarks.
Recording in progress.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
Sir, hand. Hello.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. Hearty welcome to Reimagine, Empowering Excellence.
Okay, Abhi.
Friends,
Okay.
today we are assembled here
Take.
for the 2 days virtual CPE meeting on internal audit. First and foremost, I'm really thankful to Chairman, Internal Audit Standard Board of ICI, CA Charanjit Singh Nanda. Hearty welcome, sir. They have given us this opportunity to host this internal audit conference of 2 days. We are really thankful. As a special guest, we have our elected Central Council member, CA Protai Srinivas, on behalf of Bangalore Branch. Hearty welcome. We have our own Regional Council member, Geeta Madam. Hearty welcome. Members evaluate the reason for this program, those who joined here and those who joined virtually. Hearty welcome to each one of you. We have our newly elected members, Manjunath, Kavita, Rezo, and Pramod, Divya and Srinivas. Hearty welcome to each one of you. Students, you are the future of our profession. Hearty welcome to each one of you. Friends, coming to this today's program, the internal audit race for relevance. Reimagine internal audit race for relevance. This session will explain how internal audit should respond to the dynamic business environment and rethink ways of aligning with the change. We will focus on the strategy that internal audit can adopt to accelerate its evolution from where it needs to be and where it should be. For internal audit to remain relevant, it must respond effectively to the various challenges faced by organizations. Failing to evolve will erode the impact and value internal audit can bring. The only way to determine whether an internal audit is effective is to ask the stakeholders whether they are comfortable that they are receiving the assurance they need on the risks that matter to them and to the organization. Then you start looking at additional value that is provided. The 7 principles of auditing are integrity, fair presentation, due professional care, confidentiality, independence, evidence-based approach, risk-based approach. Friends, today, to enlighten us, we have 6 eminent chartered accountants who they are going to enlighten us on all these topics, all these 7 principles. On the topic assurance mapping by CA Dr. Paul Jacob is going to join us. And the second topic is going to be discussed today is New Age Auditor, the future of internal audit, CA Rajiv Gupta. System controls, role of internal auditor, CA Premnath D. And tomorrow again we have 3 sessions. Internal audit meeting stakeholder expectations, CA Shivram Subramaniam. IT controls for internal audit, CA S. Deepika. And reinvent of Harish. Artificial Intelligence and Data Analytics in Internal Audit by CA Untitled. One of these six eminent chartered accountant going to enlighten us in this changing world. Internal audit is not an exception. Everything changes except the change. So internal audit dynamics of internal audit is changing in this dynamic world. All these six professionals going to enlighten us. On behalf of Bangalore branch, once again, hearty welcome to each one of you for coming. Thank you, Chairman, for your welcome address. To begin the program, so let us take the blessings of Almighty. So I request the dignitaries on the dais to please come forward and light the lamp and take the blessings of Almighty. To elaborate with us and to give keynote address, we have C.A. Charanjot Singh Nanda. He is the chairman of Internal Audit Standards Board (ICI) and a Central Council member, and also elected Central Council member for the term 25 to 2022 to 25. To give a brief introduction of Nanda sir, he is a member of Quality Review Board set up by the Government of India. He was a member of Internal Audit Standards Board of ICI and the chairman of members in industry of the ICI. He was the chairman of Women Members Empowerment Committee of the ICI. He was vice chairman of Committee on Public Finance and Government Accounting. He was the chairman of Professional Development Committee. He was the chairman of Committee for Cooperatives and NPO sectors. He was the chairman of Research Committee. He was the chairman of Committee on Banking, Insurance and Pensions. He was the chairman of Committee on Financial Markets and Investors Protection. He was also a member of SEBI Advisory Committee on Primary Markets. He was a member of SEBI Advisory Committee on Mutual Funds. He has represented ICI on SEBI Committee on Disclosures and Accounting Standards. He was a convener of the expert group constituted by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India on Investor Protection. He was a member of Southern Asian Federation of Accountants Committee of Professional Accountants in Business and many more. So with this brief introduction, I once again welcome Nanda sir. Welcome sir. And also, we have with us one more guest to give special address. So he's none other than Kota S. Srinivasa. So he is a Central Council elected member from Karnataka for the term 2022 to 25. To give a brief introduction about Kota sir, he is a BCom graduate from Bangalore University and a fellow member of ICI and also member of Institute of Cost and Works Accountants. He is a partner of SSB and Associates Chartered Accountants Bangalore. He has served the institute for about 2 decades and he is still continuing. And as a student committee member, he has served members and secretary of Students Association during his tenure of Bangalore branch of SRC of ICI. He has served in all the positions. He was the chairman of Bangalore branch in 2009 and 10. He started distributing backpacks to CA students, and so far more than 25,000 students have been benefited from this initiative, and we are still continuing with them. And as a regional council member, he has served from 2010 to 2019, and during 2017 to 18, he was a chairman of SIRC, and he was instrumental in collecting 1.5 crores towards CAB of Chartered Accountant Benevolent Fund when he was a chairman. And he is also prepared concept paper on coaching classes as a chairman of our academic advisory group. He was instrumental in developing digital project of our SIRC, and he has introduced IPR system for members and students and makes it available in languages during SIRC term. And he is also a visiting faculty at Bangalore branch, and also he is author of for CA references for chartered accountants. With this brief introduction, I welcome again once again to this session, and I request now Professor to give special address.
Namaste. Thank you, Panita, the president of Bangalore branch, for briefly introducing me to this conference gathering. With me this on the dais, we have the chairman of Internal Audit Standards Board of ICA, the central council member, CA Charanjot Singh Ananda. Welcome, please, sir. Then we have the chairman of Bangalore branch, CAPT City, and also the sitting regional council member from Bangalore, CA Geeta. Welcome to all of you. And of course, the newly elected members of Bangalore branch. I don't remember everybody's name. So I welcome all of you for this particular function as such, the members and students who are here, and the members who are viewing this particular program across India. First of all, let me thank this committee for giving the Bangalore branch this opportunity to host this particular program. And the name of the program is Reimagine Internal Audit and Raise for Relevance. Of course, I am not have a lot of capabilities of ability to talk technically on these subjects because we have 6 speakers who will be coming and addressing us on various topics on this particular thing. But then once we read this word, reimagine internal audit, how to reimagine internal audit? First of all, you have to imagine internal audit. Now the thing is reimagine internal audit. Why this word reimagine internal audit has come as a topic for discussion? All of us know audit and all of us know internal audit. What is that to reimagine internal audit? As you know, like business progresses or develops, the taxation system also develops. It's not that the age-old methods of auditing will still hold good in the changed environment of business. So now it's all e-commerce and e-technologies to be used in the business. If you ask me, earlier when we had certain topics on international taxation, sorry, not international taxation, on technology in CS syllabus. I was wondering why a child accountant should learn all this. Why at all I should learn this technology subjects as such. But now if you see everything is based on technology. Whatever you do is technology, whether it is payment of tax, whether it is filing of returns, e-returns, whether communication with the department is e-communication, even appeals is face-to-face assessments, face-to-face appeals, everything you should do with technology as such. Even the businesses run with technology today. So somebody was telling yesterday accounting concepts, the basic principles of accounting. The three rules are there for each and every account. Now it will be coded with the artificial intelligence which is coming in. You will not get these accounting principles as such. You will get the accounting codes as such. So the system will know what to debit and what to credit. So there is no need for an accountant to know whether it should be debited or credited and to which account has to be debited and credited. Everything the technology will take over. So that's what I heard from a few people. And also, yesterday I was talking to somebody who was telling that this new IT portal is 5G technology. We don't have 5G technology, but the portal is 5G technology, where we are facing a lot of problems to cope with that particular technology as such. So today, everybody has to upskill our knowledge with the technology and also have certain softwares in our offices where we'll be in a position to do this internal audit effectively. When we talk about other audits, like statutory audits or tax company audits, those things are all statutory requirement. So this is to give a report to a statutory funds like that. It may be income tax or it may be ROC or something like that. It's basically the audit done towards a statutory requirement. But when it comes to internal audit, it is not basically a statutory requirement. It is a management requirement. So here you should be very, very effective. And once you do the internal audit, it should be very effective. And whatever the output you give, the value addition has to go to the management asset. So that's how it says the reimagine internal audit and also relevance, the race for relevance. Race for relevance meaning if you are not updated with the technology. In fact, I remember when I was doing during apprenticeship, we used to do audits. Everything was manual. Even bank audit, we used to do manual audits. But today you will not see anything manually in banks. If you go there, everything is system based. And I don't know how many of you have gone to bank audits. Whatever you ask, the bank manager will not be knowing. He will not have answer for that. He will say, software will take care. How many of you have done the bank audits? You visited bank audits? Okay. So whatever you ask, he will say, no, sir, we are not aware. Everything will be taken care by the software as such. Until and unless you know how to get the reports from the software or you know how to give that logical questioning to that particular software, you will not be in a position to do a proper audit as such. So this is not only the case with respect to the bankers, but even the big businesses now everything is techno-based. So it's very important for us to understand the technology, that is a software that is involved in that particular business transactions, apart from the other things like whatever the statutory requirements you should know. Then also you should know this technological advancement that's happening. So we have 6 sessions, as the chairman said. So they are taking all those steps. What is that you have to do? There's something called assurance mapping. Because this, when we talk about audit, the auditor will give a reasonable assurance. It's not that we give accurate assurance. In fact, today we got one, yesterday I think we got one judgment also where the court said whatever an auditor gives his report, it's based on his ability and also based on the information explanation that he has got in the particular audit asset or from the auditee asset. So we are here to give the reasonable assurance, not accurate assurance as such. Let us understand these concepts and also let us understand the newer developments in business, this technology that is taking place, so that it will be helpful for all of us to do an effective. So for once again, I thank this particular committee Delhi to Bangalore and organize this particular program. I'm confident after attending these 2 day sessions of maybe 6 hour session, definitely we will enlighten ourselves and we'll go out of this auditorium with more knowledge what we have as of now. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dora sir, for your speech. Now I request Chairman of Internal Auditing Standards Committee, CA Charan Singh Nanda sir, to address the matter.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My very dear friend, Council Member-elect 2022-25, CA Kothas Universe, the Chairman of Bangalore Branch, CA BP Shetty, CA Madam Ida Evi, CA Pavitra Gupta Pia, and all newly elected members and people who have come here to go home all right. Ladies and gentlemen, I am speaking to 2,300 members. More than 2,300 members are online, apart from who have joined here on a physical mode. I want to tell you that we are members of this great institute, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. It was set up an Act of Parliament way back on 1st July 1949, when the most important document to the democracy, the Constitution, was not adopted. All of you are well aware that the Constitution to this great country was promulgated on 26 January 1950. The pertinent question that arises is, what prompted the Constituent Assembly to set up an Institute of Chartered Accountants of India when its own democratic setup was not in place? The answer is very candid, very simple, very forthcoming. They were looking for a disciplined band of soldiers to steer this country out of the freedom. Let me confess, the entire economy looks upon us. How by our value additions we can change the prospects of this economy, this great country, India. I happen to be the board of chairman of the Internal Standard Board. I joined the council way back in 2004 and founded this committee. This was not a board at that time. The name of the committee was the Internal Standard Committee. And at that time we had certain visions which are now being calculated. I'll give you certain issues which we have been doing over this board. First, the board conducts one program every Saturday. We're doing it for the third year in a row. This year, the theme is technology as an enabler of internal audit processes. Every Saturday, the one we are doing Monday, Tuesday is a separate one. 29th, you will have again another program. Every fortnightly, we have a program on internal audit standards. And you'll be happy to know that people joining are to the tune of 3,000, 3,500 in all our programs. We started it with a dream. We wanted to empower young practitioners who do not do internal audit. And by God's grace, now members have created that technological strength. They have created that skills and all. They are totally involved into internal audits. All the programs we have conducted, you can simply go home and view them by click of a button at Digital Learning Hub. The second area where we excel is we formulate internal audit standards. We are both skillfully making internal audit standards, and we are keen. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs makes them mandatory for all. This will lead credence to the institute, and we shall get a better partners to perform and put across the thought process which the board, the council has thought fit. The third, industry roundtable. We go and tell the industry what chartered accountants do. I was very keen to do a very ambitious program here, but due to the annual of COVID and pandemic, we couldn't do it. Last time we did a very big program at Taj. More than 300, 400 members joined. So we were keen, let us leave if time permits and if COVID permits, we will like to have a round table of industry leaders where we can tell them what chartered accountants do. We have to bring to the tables of the industry what are our skill sets, how we can add value to the perspective of the industry. The fourth area is we make industry generated guidance. Name any industry, we have internal guides, maybe retail industry, maybe mutual fund industry, maybe the systems. So in case anyone amongst you wants to contribute, I invite you all. You can contribute to the standard setting process. You can contribute in writing industry-wise general guides. The fifth, we hold concurrent audit courses. Secretary just not told me that he has undertaken one such course, and for your information, one course is concurrently started today. 3 o'clock it has started. It is going on. So you can always do a concurrent audit course which is done by the Internal Audit Standard Board and go home more relieved in terms of bank audits. Because Brother Kota very rightly put it that when you go to bank audit, you ask for information, the manager feels he doesn't know, and he uses just namely the software, and you must be a master of that software so that you will do effectively understand how to bring out the information from that software. Today's program, it is a very ambitious program with 3 speakers from Bangalore itself. One is C. Rajiv Gupta, who is Vice President and Group Head, Internal Audit Flipkart, who will speak on new age auditors, the future of internal audit. Internal audit is constantly changing. It is essentially a management function. But every now and then, you find the value addition that creeps in. As an auditor, you have to make the board more alarmed. You have to make the board more informed. The audit committees draw their difference from you. And more importantly, with data analytics, you are able to bring out the best for the people for whom decisions matter, and they are able to effectively service the entire corporation. The second speaker from Bangalore is CS Sivaram Subramaniam. I know him since early days. Now he is head internal audit item company limited. He will speak on internal audit meetings, stakeholders' expectation. What stakeholders expect from us? You would have seen that there is a lot of gap between expectation and what we do. Once a normal audit is conducted, they feel it is fraud-free. There is the court recently concluded and observed that audit doesn't mean that it is fraud-free. The third speaker from here is CA Anand P. Jangit, a technology man, who will speak on reinvent or perish artificial intelligence and data analytics in internal audit. I want to tell you, my dear brothers and sisters, as internal auditors, if you want to grow high, you have to be constantly on your toes. I want to tell you, the more people you get involved, the better you are paid in terms of your technical knowledge. These programs which have been attended by members in such great numbers have ultimately created people who could work and who are able to effectively support the entire industry in terms of internal audit. I will recite a couplet for the honor of those people who have created their mindset for performance. The couplet says, "वो तो तारीफ है तुम पर तरक्की इसको कहते हैं." Both means the statue of the sun. वो तो तारीफ है तुम पर तरक्की इसको कहते हैं. ना तराशे थे तो पत्थर थे, तराशे तो खुदा नहीं. I will give you the English version of this. It says that those pieces of stone, they have done wonderfully well. When they were stones, nobody looked at them. And when they were carved and God's statue was made, everybody throughout their life bowed their hands before. Yes, the continuing professional education. The Internal Standard Board is keen to ensure that you have best of the technical knowledge so that you can hone them and go home more enlightened, putting at rest all the doubts that may have in the course. Or the sentence. The fourth speaker, who is actually the first speaker is online, is CA Dr. Paul Jacker. He will speak on assurance mapping, what has to be the entire peripheria on which an audit has to be conducted, what are the essential note points and what are the essential reporting which has to be done. The fifth speaker is again on the topic which Brother Kota hinted. It is on system controls role of internal audit. We have CA Prerna D, who hails from Hyderabad. The last speaker is Madam S. Deepika, who comes from Chennai, and she will speak on information technology controls from internal audit. I want to tell you, this is going to be an exciting 2-day program. Bangalore branch is one of the best branches of the country. And I want to tell you the pain they have taken immensely to ensure that maximum members are able to reach to this program, take it to their stride, and ensure that they give best of the services to their friends. Ladies and gentlemen, as a council member, myself and Mr. Kota, we can only say one thing, that any topic which you want, any area where you want knowledge is required, we are always there. You can tell Mr. Kota to the branch chairman or to me. We'll ensure that we hold programs as per your relevance and your need. And temporary programs shall be followed are, and in case you want to refer, I will say this on the sake of repetition, that in case you want to go back and refer any program, you get everything on Digital Learning Hub. Wishing this conference a great success. Wishing Bangalore branch a great success under the chairmanship of Mr. Shetty and under the guidance of Mr. Pope and Geeta. I want to thank for all of you for inviting me here and coming here in physical numbers also, which is a great moral booster for the board. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nanda sir, for your enlightening speech. So, ladies and gentlemen, with this, we'll conclude the inaugural session. So, as a token of gratitude, I request dignitaries on the dais to please felicitate Nanda sir and present him of the memento.
Well, I just forgot to say one or two things. As our ICM motto says, "A should teach geography. Every auditor should be vigilant and effective while doing the audit." Two practical bits I would like to say is every internal audit report that you sign has to be a UTIN has to be generated. And second most important thing is recently one member was asking whether I should take no objection letter from the previous internal auditor. So that's a must. Anybody gets a fresh internal audit, and if you have a previous internal auditor, you have to get a no objection letter from the previous auditor. These two things I thought I wanted to share with all of you. Thank you.
Yes, is the best felicitation I have ever received. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nanda sir, for taking all your time and very Bangalore friends. Ladies and gentlemen, so let's move on to technical sessions. The first technical session is on assurance mapping. For this, we have CA Dr. Paul Jaikumar sir. So please give a big round of applause for Paul sir. Could you give a brief introduction about Paul sir? He is a fellow member of ICAI. He is also a member of ICACA and also Institute of Internal Auditors Committee, Board of Governors and past president of Madras Chapter. He has presented various papers at ICAI, All India, regional level and CPE seminars, ISACOM, regional seminars, SIRC study circles, University of Madras, seminars conducted by Department of Commerce, Management, Criminology and Computer Science. At present, he is a director of IT and RMS, Information Technology and Risk Management Services at Mrs. CNP and Associates LLP Chartered Accountants. He is also independent director at Panasonic Carbon India Company Limited. He has a vast experience relating to digital forensic audits and analytics, business process re-engineering, data analytics for business, risk-based internal audits, implementation of ERPs, and various other experiences. He has presented papers in overseas also, and he has a vast teaching experience over 40 plus years. With this brief introduction, I once again present to you Paul sir. Welcome to you, sir, and over to you, sir.
Can I start?
Sir, your voice is now not audible.
Yeah, okay. So thank you very much for the introduction. I'll get started with the subject. So I'll do one thing. I'll switch off the video and I'll share the screen. Today the topic is assurance mapping. So I'll turn off the video. I'll go ahead with my presentation. So this will be visible on your screen. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll quickly run through the a few definitions which all of us know. It's not new to us. But what is new is the concept of assurance mapping, which has been promoted by both the Institute of Chartered Accountants, England and Wales, and also the Institute of Internal Auditors, and it's finding its way into audit reports, which are given to the audit committee. And of course, it'll go to the board after that. So, what is an assurance map? The assurance map is basically a collection of all the assurances for a particular area. So let's look at some of the examples of various assurances we have. We have review processes done internally and by outsiders, internal controls evaluated by insiders and outsiders, monitoring, reporting arrangements, etc. This goes on right up to internal audit and finally the statutory auditor. Now, these are all forms of assurance at different points of time. Some of them may be for a period of time, some of them are at a point of time. So, this first point we notice there has to be a lot of assurance activity going on. The second point is we want to bring all those assurance activities into a single chart so that the audit committee or the people who are in charge with governance are able to see these assurances visually. We'll go through the examples. Then the tool itself, the chart itself is used as a tool for governance. And we all know that governance is also increasing in India. So, of course, for listed companies, it's very high. For public companies, it's a little less, private, much less, unless they fall into some parameters. So, three things are we are going to take all the individual forms of assurance and then we are going to put them into a chart and then give it to the audit committee or the board of directors or whoever is charged with governance. So trying to put it all together, an assurance map is a collective view of all the assurance across the organization. Whereas if you take each assurance process, there are lots of things, management, control, risk management, scrutiny, there's a list of those. And when we take the assurance types for each of them, let's say management, control, or risk management, you will have internal control, supervision, management supervision, etc., various standards, and so on. At the bottom, you'll find there is a 3/4/5. Now, this is because we have a problem here because originally it was 3 lines of defense. Then, as experts, my audit and management experts increased it to 4 lines of defense. Now it is currently at 5 lines of defense. It doesn't really matter. It's your company could be at 3, 4, or 5. We'll go through that. And then comes the assurance of the mapping, which we already discussed. So if you look at the first 3 components, we're trying to put it all together, or rather we'll go backwards. We got individual assurances based on standards, regulators, laws, policies. Then we come together. In fact, IFC is well known to all the auditors now. Risk management, enterprise risk management, RCMs, we are all comfortable with. And then we come to the part where we talk about the collective view of assurance across the organization. So this is the assurance map. Now, again, defining assurance, anyway, I'm not going to the company law component, but when we define assurance, actually from the company law, it says internal financial controls. But if you read it closely, it's more like enterprise risk management. Unlike other countries where, like many of those things like SOC 1 or we have the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, where the financial controls are clearly separated from the operational controls. In India, the Act has included everything, particularly for listed and public companies, where we have to talk about anything which impacts finance. It's not just the financial controls, but even, let's say, an obsolete stock or non-collected debts, whatever, it's all going to be included. So the assurance here is more on the GRC process, the governance risk, and that's why I said audit committee and the board. Then we spoke about the lines of defense, which I'll explain now. And we also need reliable evidence of assurance because the board won't have time to start looking into the RCMs and detailed internal audit reports and ISO reports and so on. They need to have a quick snapshot of what is going on. So going to the lines of defense, I've skipped the 3 lines. We'll go to the 4 and 5. The 4 lines of defense, okay, we know the first line is all internal, like management policies, control frameworks, and RCMs, and so on. The second line of defense is when these first line is evaluated, that is control self-assessment. Then, of course, we ask third parties to do some reviews on compliance. It could be internal or external. We have legal groups, in fact, it's called a compliance department. The third line is, of course, an internal audit, which mostly will be in-house, but in India, most of the internal audit is outsourced. So an external audit firm would do this. And the fourth line is, of course, the last auditor, the external auditor or the ISO auditor or the pollution auditor, energy auditor, whoever it is. They have statutory rights and their signatures are important on these reports. Now, when we say 5 lines of defense, it's almost the same thing. Just leave the 1. We'll renumber the 2 as 1, 2, 3, 4. Make the 5 as tone at the top, tone of the organization. So now if you see the 4 and the 5, the only extra part we have added is the tone at the top. And you have seen a number of resignations recently. Tone at the top is the problem. So we won't go into the names, but you can keep this in mind that today, as mostly on the public and private companies also, the government, in fact, also the RDA and RVA regulators also, they want a note on the tone at the top. I mean, how do you rate the directors and those charged with governance? That's the 5 lines of defense. So now that we have got rid of the lines of defense, now let's get into it's a diagram of the internet, but I just explain this quickly. We got the first line, the second line, and the third line of defense. Now we are talking about small units, business units. They have the support functions. These are all the procure to pay, order to cash, hire to retire, etc. Then we try to bring in the next level where all you have the executive management, but roles are slightly different. They are now going to talk about group compliances for all this. There are special departments for insurance, risk management, compliance, and so on. The last part, we are taking the third line, internal audit, and where the board was responsible here, the internal audit also reports to the audit committee, which in turn reports to the board. There's a lot of independence and objectivity components here, which is a standard auditing requirement. But we'll just concentrate on the assurance maps. Okay, I gave a long story on lines of defense. I mean, who reports and who does what, controls, RCMs, and so on. Now let's quickly go to the assurance. This is the first diagram. I'll have 3 diagrams. I'll make it as simple as possible. Now on this side, we see some headings like financial reporting, financial controls, legal, etc. On the these are the row titles. On the column titles, right at the top, we have what's the first line of defense, second line, third line, fourth line. If you have fifth line, you have to extend it. And if you look at the first line, we are talking about the control framework, that's your RCMs and so on. Then you have the management review. Now, green indicates that you have a very high level of assurance. The yellow indicates there's a medium, and the amber indicates low assurance. Red is no assurance. and why it is we couldn't figure out. Probably it was not even necessary or it wasn't applicable. Now, what we need to understand is this is not the risk matrix where red is high and green is low. It's opposite, the other way around. This is assurance matrix where green is high and red is low. So if a management suddenly wants to know, okay, how compliant are we on the legal side? The first line of defense gives you only a low assurance. The second line of defense is not very helpful either. Third line, not helpful. Fourth line doesn't even exist. That means we have a problem with our legal assurances. Are we following all the laws? No. For instance, let's say we got new labor codes. Who's going to work on it? We got some legal requirements on various things, not just Companies Act. We got the IT Act on, and shortly we'll have the Data Protection Act. A lot of acts are there, and then now, of course, we have issues with smuggling and money laundering and etc. There were so many issues. We find the legal is not very comfortable here. But if you take something just mostly green like financial reporting, or you take something just mostly red like human resources, the management gets a clear picture. How much of assurance do they have on the risks being managed or controlled or monitored or reported by these various lines of defense, and within each line you may have subcategories. So this is one snapshot, I mean one single diagram which is showing, of course this is a very small diagram. I'll increase it now. I'll make again another diagram. So we have some areas here and we have some controls, people in charge of the controls and assurance here. And then we'd like to know, are we happy with it or not? So if let us say we took internal audit this way, a vertical column, you're happy with the finance part, maybe internal audit generally goes to finance. You're not happy with the rest of it. They didn't even bother about things like treasury and tax pension, fraud risk assessment, health and safety. So you'll have to whatever it is. I mean, so this I'm not interpreting it, but I'm just saying that this gives you the whole picture of how the organization's assurance functions are working and where it's weak and where it's strong. Now, this is taken from the England and Wales Chartered Accountants Institute. They have given 10 steps, but what I would say is you feel comfortable in any number of steps you want. Normally, your sponsor will be the audit committee because they give you the charter or the mandate. Then your scope, you may have to sign off on the scope. Will take the whole ERM. But if they specifically wanted only legal or only HR, then of course HR has also become very huge now. Then you go ahead with the required desired amount of assurance. Actually, desired means you have a huge risk appetite. If you're, that all comes from your risk assessments. Required would be more safer in an Indian context, particularly with third-party requirements like regulators and laws. Desired is, of course, mostly for the management's comfort. Then it's fine. Identify who's providing the assurance. Identify the activities the assurance is doing. Then you may have to reassess your scope, but don't worry about reassessment. You can stick to your original scope, at least initially. Then assess the quality of the assurance activities. This is where you may want to do a quality review of everything, the internal auditor, the all your lines of defense. I'm not just saying internal auditor, but even your controls, your top management, your tactical level, operational level, all of them, you would like to do a quality check on that. Then you work, okay, this is after that, it's only filling up the matrix, aggregate amount of assurance, the gaps and overlap. So this, we'll leave the 8, 9, 10 as 1 point. We'll have to fill the matrix. But the earlier points, 1 to 6, we normally do, but 7 is very rare in India. Only now we are kind of moving into assess the quality of the assurance activities. It's not quality improvement and quality performance is not a standard thing which is done, but maybe we'll have to slowly bring that in. Now, I've added a few more colors here. Again, it's an image. Now, if you take a risk area, again, we have got a first line, second line, etc. Let's say health and safety. Now, in the first line, we have got this green, okay, same thing, assurance, high, medium, low, whatever. Now, internal control measures, we got a green, and then we got this, okay, the management controls, etc. It's almost the same drawing. But what happens is in the external, we have put external audit and regulatory audits also, because we have pollution audits, we have quality audits, we have vendor audits, we have lots of audits. I mean, banks sometimes, if you borrowed heavily, the bank sends an audit, sends an auditor. A lot of things going on. So this will go on increasing 3, 4, 5. Right now it's at 5. Now what I'll do is this picture will not be very clear, but I'll just enlarge it. Now it's the same thing again. Now what we have done is we have taken one area, say fraud and error. This is like an RCM, a COSO's RCM, but not complete. It's a risk owner who owns the risk. Then we have the strategic object to deliver, demonstrate value for money, etc. Then we have the controls which work there. Then we go to the various things, the first line defense, whatever. Then corporate oversight is second line of defense, third line, and then we come to the last part where now we are adding a few more columns to say what is the overall assessment, the control rating. Are you fine with it? Is it sufficient, the assurance? Then how would you like to improve it? Now this was not there in the earlier two drawings. We had all the other parts. Now we are adding a few more columns. We want to know, are we at a comfortable level of assurance? Now these, okay, these are the colors, okay, same thing there, high assurance, etc. Now these become very important because certain assurances have to be at a fixed level. We cannot compromise on that because they are statutory assurances. Some of them may be more management policies, or some of them may be just best practices. So that segregation will have to be done when you're writing out scope. There's no compromise on, definitely not on statutory requirements. But if the tone at the top is very good, then there will be no compromise even on the inner ones like the policies and basic controls. If the tone at the top is okay, risk appetite is a little higher, then of course we skip the, or we not skip, but we compromise a little bit on it. Now these are risk categories, and I've just taken a few. I mean, this is not a comprehensive list. Now strategic risks, we have some risks here. Operational risks are mainly, in fact, operational risks today, what happens is, most of the time, even this slide, I've concentrated on more on manufacturing. But today, operational risks are very important in hospitality, healthcare, insurance. Service industries are becoming, because they have intangible problems there. Not everything is tangible. So the operational risks are very high in areas where you have a lot of activities which which cannot really be measured, like efficiency of a doctor or efficiency of a restaurant, or in fact they have one more called value trail mapping. So maybe some other time we could look at that. Then human resources is a very major thing in India. Big companies are facing a lot of problems here, particularly the ones which had loyal workers. As age, people retire, the younger people don't share that loyalty concept and so on. Financial, all of us are comfortable with. Regulatory, all of us are comfortable with the financial regulations. The operational regulations is what we need to concentrate on. We put environmental, information privacy, but these are common. But you have a lot of others, like you have the Air Act for pollution, Poison Act for use of acids when you clean something. There are ever so many acts, and India is full of them. That's where the auditor has to work very hard on the regulatory compliance, because these assurances is what the audit committee is also looking for. Technology, of course, assurances are very important. But today with cloud, we go more by the service auditors' reports. Now, taking the same examples here, the sample risks we have got, strategic, etc. The same examples. Now, I'm just enlarging this. won't be clear, but it doesn't matter. So if you take strategic risks, now what we have done is the first line, second line, we try to bring in all the departments here. Now these are all like working papers for the auditor before you come to the final assurance map. So here we have said, okay, if it's crisis management, which departments get involved and to what extent, or don't get involved to what extent. Same thing here, like competitive environment. Today, competition studies are important. We have a lot of these seminars on sentiment analysis and emotional quotients and so many things we are studying now. It's not just market research anymore. It's gone beyond that. Resource allocation and so on. So if you look at the key here, you'll see risk is covered fully, partly, very, very low risk coverage and no risk coverage. So if you put in all those points and then try to see the functions in each line of defense, we will know how effective or can we increase their role or just leave it as it is. Okay, that's outcome of the map. But right now, when you're preparing the map, at least you have identified who is providing the assurance. In crisis management, full assurance is more on the second line. Part assurance is more on the first line and so on. Now, what I will do is, okay, these are the risk frameworks. COSO is the most common for auditors. That's the RCM format. NIST is mostly for computers and technology. ISO is more on quality, EHS, environment, health, safety, risk management, so 31,000, so on, 34,000. ISAC, of course, is the COBIT. Now, what I will do is I'll just exit this. I'll share the screen. See, I've changed the screen now. Now we have got a template. This is an Excel template. It's Excel template. It's a real Excel. So this template, of course, we got some labeling to help us out. See, if you look at column 1, now this is this one here, the blue one here, is talking about all the risks we're talking about, finance risks, health and safety, and so on. Now these are the row titles. 2 is the column titles. So you can see like policies and so on, like management, first line, policies, control framework, and so on. Now, when we go to 3 will be the intersection of these two, a column and a row intersection. So right now we got some blue and light blue and dark blue. If you have dark blue, it's a deep assurance. It's a very good assurance. If you are light blue, it is like reasonable assurance, not very good. So we're now on the 1, 2, and 3. We have the row title, column title, again based on your lines of defense. And for each intersection, we have put in of course, the PR2, etc., the refer to documents and assurance points, like work paper references or evidence references. So we got the 1, 2, and the 3. Now we need to have a look at the 4. Now 4 gives us the amount of assurance, desired required amount of assurance. Again, we have green is high assurance, etc. Now for each of these points, now level 1, management first line, we have the current amount of assurance here. Now this is not the blue. This is overall for management first line of defense. So here we find conduct, culture, and behavior. Assurance is not very good. Strategy setting, okay, acceptable. But operational tasks, okay, it's green, so then we are happy with it. So management would probably concentrate on these last columns for each of these lines of defense. But they will, if detail is needed, of course, you can go into any of these other cells and have a look. So then the last one here, which is 5, now gives you the assurance for the entire risk map, the assurance map. Now it's not just first line, second line, third line. This is the entire, all the lines put together, 5 lines, 4 lines, 3 lines, whatever. So then if you see culture, not so good. If you take something on green, like say, okay, some board risk, okay, confidence in management of risk. Output risk, of course, we need to put a proper risk there. We'll stay with this vision and strategy. It's okay, it's not very good. But if you take operational tasks, it's very good, and so on. So what are we trying to say in this format is, you have got all your lines of defense, individual controls. At each line of defense, we have summarized the assurance. And finally, for the entire matrix, we have summarized the assurance. So what now happens is, if you look at this on a full scale, you'll be able to see the entire organization's risk maps individually, lines of defense, summary, lines of defense, summary, the entire map. Now, this is the assurances, internal audit, whatever policies, RCMs, etc. Now, if we have taken the step 2, which is the column titles, and step 4, which is, of course, the column figures we are putting here. Okay, so let me just open these other spreadsheets. Now, step 2 is this one here, the column titles. It was there in this map. We had the column titles. Now, when I go to the next thing, these are all the column titles. So we got all the row titles to be put in here. And step 4, which was our, okay, now I just scroll it a little bit. So, okay, 4 is here. And this is the list for 4. Now, if right now, since we are going through a class, if somebody wants to use this risk map template, this template is downloadable from the Institute of England and Wales, Institute of Chartered Accountants, England and Wales. Anyway, I'll be mailing this to the IASP also. You can use these templates, but organizations which need fifth line of defense, you'll have to extend this stone at the top. Right now, we got up to the fourth line of defense, which is sufficient. If you have 3 lines of defense, then just get rid of whichever columns you don't require. So right now we have got, when I go back to the original picture, so we have got all the assurances in a single, it's an Excel sheet, but you can make it a PowerPoint slide or whatever it is. So now if we go back to our PowerPoint, okay, so we saw the, okay, so we went to the part where we, okay, so now we have seen the Excel spreadsheet, and I just want to just complete this by saying, I've taken an example from history, where this is the British, UK, United Kingdom, British, whatever, the Great Britain, and they ruled a lot of colonies across the world. Now, this is a very small country, and okay, they were poor till the colonization started. Now, they need an assurance that everything is going along well in all these colonies spread across cultures, races, languages, and so on. So they obviously used an assurance map, but it didn't have the name. Name is now given by the auditors. So if you take a structure of the administration, when they had taken the Government of India page, it's all reference is given. So what they did was they broke it up into different heads. Each head had different people working under them. And then if you see, if you take this Tahsildar as we call them today, and we know Tahsildar has got a lot of work, death certificates, legal aid certificates, community certificates. I mean, he's got a whole lot of work. But do you think somebody sitting at the head office, for us it will be a head office, audit board, audit committee or board of directors, they just don't want the details, they don't want the working papers. All that they want is an assurance that he's doing his job properly and it's checked properly, it's properly accounted for, and there's no problem. Now, if you take somebody here, like let's say we took somebody who was in charge of the police, all we want to know is, are they doing their job well? We have got different people. We have got auditors, we got RCMs people, we have got monitors, we got all kinds of people working in the organization who will provide us that assurance. So I'm just taking a piece from history, but what we really need to look at is maybe one of our earlier pictures. This is how your final assurance map in your audit report should look like. So as the audit committee sits and looks at it, they've seen the colors, they know all these areas, they know who's in charge of each of these areas, and are they doing a good job, are they not so good a job. So this is what we have in the assurance maps. So thank you, and I hope it was useful. If you have any questions, I can take one or two now. Otherwise, I'll join up at the end where we have the question session. I'll answer all the questions at that time. So I have completed the presentation. So I think second speaker is ready. So
Thank you so much, also. On behalf of Bangalore branch and entire management committee of Bangalore branch, and also on behalf of International Analytics and the Score Committee, I thank you so much for your valuable time and wonderful deliberations. Thank you so much, sir. Let's move on to second technical session. It's on new age auditors, the future of internal audits. For this, we have CA Rajiv Gupta, sir. So I welcome Rajiv Gupta, sir, for today's session. To give a brief introduction about Rajiv Gupta, sir, he is an author, speaker, and the leader governance and risk management. He is currently working as a vice president and group head internal audits in e-commerce industry. Prior to this, he has worked as a chief internal auditor at DRGO India, head of internal controls for India and Southwest Asia at Coca-Cola, and assurance manager with PwC India and London. He is a chartered accountant, certified fraud examiner, certified information systems auditor, and certified in COVID P5, and holds diploma in information systems audit (ICAI). He is the author of Technical Guide on Internal Audit of Beverage Industry, published by ICAI. He is a guest speaker at ICAI, ISACA, Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, Software Asset Management Strategy, Europe, and National Academy for Direct Taxes. He has spoken on fraud prevention, fraud risk assessment, deep dive intelligence, financial statements, fraud, etc. at various international conferences. With this brief introduction, I once again welcome Rajiv Gupta for today's session and over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. I hope I am audible, right? Super. So, hi, good afternoon, everyone. After discussing the assurance map, the next topic which we can move on to is, so we learned the technical part of how to do the mapping, how to plot the 3 or the 4 or the 5 lines of defense. But it is also important to appreciate what is happening around us, how the companies, the world for which we will actually do assurance mapping, how that world is changing, number one, how the clients, the companies for which we will be doing audit, how those companies are changing, number 2, and number 3, how the new age auditors are changing. The auditors who have been the chartered accountants who have been working with us in the past, and the Gen Z auditors, the fresh chartered accountants who are joining us, how their skill set, how their thought processes are different from the traditional auditors. That's also important for us to learn and leverage. So that is going to be the focus of my presentation for next half an hour, 45 minutes, and then I will open up for questions. Some of the mega trends, ladies and gentlemen, which I will talk about is, number 1, slowly but consistently, the world is moving towards convenience economy. What does that mean? Convenience economy means we are not buying the products. We are now buying convenience. And examples are, for example, Uber, right? What convenience? Zoom cars. Zoom car is an alternative of, instead of buying car, you can take car on rent. So convenience. So you don't have to worry about the parking. You don't have to worry about the maintenance, service, convenience. There are companies, furniture renting companies, which are coming up very strongly, like Furlanco and so on, which are saying that if you are into a job where every few years you are changing the cities because you are moving from one company to another company every few years, then why worry about your old furniture? You take furniture on rent. Convenience. So the new age companies, the companies which are focusing on problem solving, they're solving the problem of convenience. And that is what you will see more and more companies focusing on. And this is getting supported, ladies and gentlemen, by the digitalization, by the automation, and by amazing connectivity, which is being provided through 4G or 5G. Now everybody having a smartphone, whether it is a chartered accountant or the client or the junior most person at the client side. Everybody is very well connected with the smartphones, and hence these new age companies, they are focusing on convenience as a focus area. Metaverse, decentralized finance, blockchain, and you would have heard a lot. And you may be thinking that why people are talking about blockchain and now megaverse and so on. I will touch upon that for 5 minutes or so in next few slides. You will also see, ladies and gentlemen, increasing focus on ESG, environment, social, and governance. This was called by different names in the past. Sustainability, responsible behavior, responsible sourcing, and so on. The scope of all of those things have been brought together and made more comprehensive. More and more companies, more and more investors and stakeholders will encourage companies to focus more on ESG. Yeah, so that is going to be a big focus area even for the auditors. Health. Now people more and more, especially in last 2 years, are focusing on health. Yeah. And hence from your client side, from your current or the future client side, the pharma is going to become very big. And as an employer, as well as from the potential client's perspective. Hybrid work environment, ladies and gentlemen, is going to sustain, is going to continue. What does that mean? That if, for example, your audit department is based in Bangalore, and you want to leverage chartered accountants who are in tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities, earlier you could not leverage them. Now you can leverage them. So that is going to be an added advantage of hybrid work environment. And Gen Z, the fresh chartered accountants, the new generation, they are, ladies and gentlemen, they are not that much money driven, but they are purpose driven. Yeah, and I will talk about that in brief. And that is actually indirectly connected with increasing focus on ESG. So both things are getting connected, and these are some of the mega trends. There are many more, but in the interest of time, I will be focusing on these 5 or 6 areas, because they will, to a great extent, they will define, number one, how your clients and the employers will look like in the future, and how your audit team will look like in the future, how the new age auditors will look like. So to start with metaverse, you would have seen, for example, Facebook has changed its name to Meta. So then what's a big deal? Why people have started talking about metaverse, whereas many of us chartered accountants, we don't play these video games. Yeah. See, the reason I feel very strongly about metaverse and the blockchain becoming big are I have tried to capture that in this slide. Number one, there are many challenges, there are many problems in our traditional ecosystem, and hence the way we do business, it is gonna change, and that change will come significantly through the blockchain technology. That is one. Second, this technology is gonna replace how we use credit cards, how we write checks, and how we do fund transfer. So a lot is gonna change around us. Now the point is, if you are a bank auditor, and if a significant portion of your bank business tomorrow goes to blockchain, then it makes absolute sense for us to also learn how to audit blockchains. Yeah, because that will open up avenues for us to leverage and to to focus on the companies which are running blockchain, to focus them as the potential clients as well. A significant portion of banking business is expected to go to blockchain. So that is what there are many experts who refer to. Now, if those are the estimates what people are making, or the some of the aspirational directions in which people are planning to go, are there some real life examples? Yes. So there are some real life examples. For example, in US, Walmart is now testing cryptocurrency technology to speed up its operation, supply chain, and also to cut down its the supply chain losses. So that is one area where Walmart is focusing on. There are many hospitals in US who have started using a blockchain to maintain the privacy of the medical records, of their patients. So that's another very good use case, and you can, I will be sharing this slide along with with some links of the website links. You can read those to understand how some of these technologies can be used in solving some of these real world problems. Third, and I don't know if you have gone through, you have seen this YouTube video. Around a couple of weeks ago, Samsung actually opened its one of the flagship store, and its flagship store is named as 837X. It opened a replica of that on Metaverse. There is one Metaverse called Decentralized. They opened their copy of this of this flagship store in Metaverse. Now you may be wondering that what it has to do with us as auditors. It has to do a lot, because that gives a lot of opportunities to chartered accountants like you and me to partner in developing governance around this, in designing how IT controls, how information security controls, how hacking related controls have been built into the environment in which the company is moving. So a lot of scope gets opened up for you and me to focus on the technology related risk which your clients will be taking. What if, for example, you are auditor of Walmart? What if you are an auditor of Samsung? Or if Samsung is asking for auditors who can help them ensure that the metaverse in which they are jumping in, it is secure. PwC Hong Kong, they have actually purchased a land in Sandbox. Sandbox is again another environment. These names like Decentraland, Sandbox, there are many. They are like planets. They are like virtual planets where companies are going in, purchasing land, and setting up their virtual environments. Now, if PwC, for example, has purchased a land in in Sandbox, they're not going to live with land only. They are going to construct an office, a virtual office in there, and that is where, from the technology risk perspective, we can play a good role. Pfizer is starting looking into it. Mastercard, has applied for various crypto-related patents. So you will see slowly companies are moving towards blockchain, because there are some advantages which are uniquely provided by blockchain as a technology. Another change which is happening, ladies and gentlemen, is decentralized finance. Decentralized finance means right now the way finance is organized is everything in finance is around banks, not only in India, across the globe. And that is where, for example, if I have to send some money to my relatives in US, there are two problems. Number one, I have to pay some fees. Number two, I have to wait for X number of days for that money to be transferred. So there are some challenges in there. With decentralized finance, those intermediaries are gone, because with the help of blockchain as a technology, it ensures that there is no middleman involved and direct transaction is happening between the two parties. There are many platforms in blockchain which are helping in decentralized finance. One foundational is Ethereum. Second, which is claimed to give a strong competition to Ethereum, is Solana, and there are many more which are coming up. But the point is, as for example, Paul was sharing assurance mapping and, red, amber, and greens from the high assurance, medium assurance, and low assurance perspective. You can provide that assurance only when you know what control your client has put in place. Now, if instead of dealing through a bank, if your client is moving to decentralized finance, and it is expected to happen sooner or later, then how you will do this assurance mapping? So it is very important. It is becoming very important, ladies and gentlemen, that we understand these technologies. We may not be required to become expert in all of these, but it becomes very important that we have working knowledge, so that if tomorrow some of our clients move from normal banking to decentralized finance, then we have means to continue supporting them, or also we can provide some advisory to them in how well they can move from their traditional financial management to decentralized finance. So I will not go deeper into it. We can park it for a later discussion. Maybe some other day we can pick up this topic in detail. But this is worth your time investment, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, not really to become an expert, but to get working knowledge around these. In this presentation, I have also attached this video, very useful video. I have taken it from Ethereum's website. And once I encourage you all to, go through this video. I think this is around 8 to 10 minutes long. We will not run it in this session. Yeah, it's 15 minutes approximately. So, ladies and gentlemen, with these, some of the examples which I have started sharing with you, and I will be sharing few more in next few minutes. One thing which I want to, talk about is that, when I meet my CA colleagues, some of the CA colleagues, I see that some of us have a myth, yeah, and that myth is that we have an option, yeah, and that myth is I have an option whether I adopt what these emerging technologies are, or I have an option not even to focus on them, and I continue with whatever technologies or what type of the way I have been operating in the past. We feel we have an option, but I strongly feel we don't have an option. Yeah, and I will talk about more in next few slides. We feel we have an option to learn or not to learn, but I think we don't have that option. It is high time that we start learning some of these changes which are happening. And why I feel so? Because guys, the world is changing, and with this changing world, the premium which our clients they are willing to provide to us, it is changing. And what you see on your screen right now is a table. I have taken a screenshot of that from Future of Jobs report published by World Economic Forum. So it is freely available on Google. And I would like to draw your attention towards this rectangular box where it's saying out of top 20 jobs which are on decreasing demand, in top 5 are accounting, bookkeeping, and auditing. So these are from the premiumization perspective, they are on the decreasing side. Why? Because many of the tasks which we do while providing accounting services to our clients or while providing auditing services to our clients, many of them are repeatable. And as many of you know, anything which is repeatable is going to robots. Anything which is repeatable is going to robots, and hence the skills which require creativity, which are on the left-hand side of your screen, they are the ones which are going to be much, much more premium. Yeah, and this is the reason, ladies and gentlemen, I'm encouraging you all to focus on the newer technologies which are coming up around us. Yeah. Another important point, and this is something which we miss many a times. Many times we as chartered accountants, we are slow in adopting technology. And the reason we give is, let other people try. Let us see if it is just a bubble. Yeah. Because if it is just a bubble, why I should waste my time? Let others waste their time. But if it is not a bubble, then I will adopt. But ladies and gentlemen, let me draw your attention to the history, which says that every emerging technology is considered to be emerging only for maximum of 12 to 14 years. So what happens within those 12 to 14 years? Number one, when a new technology comes, it carries premium for sure. And that with the simplest example is the mobile phones. Yeah. So when phones came in late 90s, late 1990s and early 2000, outgoings were, I think, more than 25 rupees per what, I even forgot was a minute or what seconds. And even incoming was chargeable. So that was a time of premiumization. Yeah. And over next few years, that premiums, started going down. And now mobiles have become commodity. Why I'm saying commodity? Because now if I'm having a smartphone, nobody will say, wow, because it is considered as an essential item, just like wearing clothes is essential. Mobile smartphone has become an essential item for us. Similarly, ladies and gentlemen, all these emerging technologies I just talked about, they are going to carry their premium only for next few years. And after that, it will become commodity, which means anyone you will meet, any other practicing chartered accountant you will meet, he or she will be an expert, okay, or will be having working knowledge of all these technologies which I am talking about. Yeah. So please don't wait for the commodity stage to come, because if you start learning these technologies when they become commodity, it will be too late. Yeah. So learn them when they are still premium, because that is when you will be able to acquire more and more clients which are going into this space. Yeah. So that was another important point I wanted to share. Coming to the next one, deepfakes we can leave for now. Yeah. So next topic, ladies and gentlemen, is around BYOD, which we have been using this phrase for years now. Bring your own device. But with COVID coming in a couple of years ago, this BYOD has been replaced with BYOE, bring your own environment. So what has changed? What does that mean? Earlier, some companies used to say that it is okay if you bring your personal laptop to office, or if you want to use a personal laptop for office work, we will ensure that adequate security is implemented in there. Companies used to say if it is okay if you want to use your personal mobile for office emails or other stuff, we will install security in that. This was BYOD, bring your own device. But in last 2 years, we are not going to office, many of us. We are bringing our environment to office. So for example, right now I'm working from home. So when I speak with my colleagues, I'm actually bringing my environment, my room, my kids may be roaming around. So I'm bringing my home environment to office. When I was bringing my laptop, my personal laptop to office, company could install security in there. But when I'm bringing my environment, company cannot control it. Yeah. For example, if someone is processing personally identifiable information, yeah, earlier it was not so easy to copy it, but now anybody can copy it. For example, this machine on which we are having this Zoom call, suppose this is official machine, and I want to copy this data. If the company has implemented all the control, still I can use my smartphone right now to take a photo of what is on the screen. Yeah. This was not easy earlier because people used to go to office. People were not working in hybrid environment. But now in hybrid environment, you cannot control. You cannot have CCTV cameras on people. So the future of work carries this risk, where when the employees, when the team members, they will continue to work in the hybrid environment, how you will control that personally identifiable information is not getting stolen, data privacy is respected, are some of the questions where our clients will be looking for answer from us. They will be looking for suggestions, recommendations from us, and that is where I believe we can play a big role as chartered accountants and as internal auditors. Some of the controls or some of the checkpoints which Harvard Business Review, and I have given the link below, they have recommended. I have summarized 3 of their suggestions to be really effective in the hybrid work environment. One of the recommendation is there has to be difference between brief communication and clear communication. If we are in office, brief communication is still okay, because if our team member is confused, he can still easily come back to us. But when we are working in hybrid environment, it is difficult for them to keep asking for a Zoom calls again and again and again with us to get clarity. And hence, it is becoming important that when we communicate, the communication is made as clear as possible, which may come at cost of overdoing it to some extent. Rationalize the number of follow-ups with your teams so that it doesn't become go to the stage of annoying, and create space for celebration. So I will not go deeper into it. I have given the link. Please go through this article. It's really interesting one. How we as chartered accountants, how we as either as audit heads or as partners, we can make our remote teams more effective in what they are doing as chartered accountants. No code. I skip it. Next one is, ladies and gentlemen, that if this is how our environment is changing, then how it will impact the potential audit scope in the future. So therein my view is very simple, very straightforward. And what I am saying that organizations slowly, they are moving towards Industry 4.0. And what is Industry 4.0? It means an environment where everything is interconnected. And obviously that would need a good support from 5G, where as world we are slowly moving. But everything will be so connected that there are many processes which you would be able to run from a mobile phone. Very simple example, guys. I think for last 5 to 7 years, you would have seen there are air conditioners available in the market where, in summers, for example, if you are starting from office going to home, and since there is nobody at home, your home was in the evening. So because of so much heat, it will become very difficult for you to enter. So many times what we do, we open the doors for a few minutes and then turn on the fan and then go inside. But there are smart ACs available now, which you can turn on with your mobile itself. So when you're starting from your office towards home, you can, through that mobile app, you can turn on the AC so that by the time you reach home, your home is well, ventilated by that time. So that way, that those 5G technologies are now getting used, integrated by the companies into their supply chain processes as well. And what you see on the screen is an example of how the Industry 4.0 will look like, with absolute use of technology and interconnectivity in what we do. And this is where I feel, ladies and gentlemen, we as chartered accountants, we as internal auditors have a lot to learn, have a lot to deliver, because there are many pillars you see on the screen where historically we have not provided any assurance. Cloud computing, I'm sure many would be already doing a lot of work. It's no longer new. Cybersecurity no longer new. But if you look at mobile technologies, and now everything is mobile. If you ask about any product which is on website, intuitively we all ask, "Iska mobile app hai kya? Is there a mobile app available for this in this company?" So everything is moving to mobile. Then 3D printing is pretty recent phenomena. Advanced robotics, and you would have seen some of the Boston, what is that? Boston Robotics. I forgot the name. There are many, videos available on YouTube. You can see how much advancement being happening in this space. The latest one is fully automated cooking. So you don't need to enter your kitchen. Your breakfast, lunch, dinner, washing utensils, everything can be done by the robot. So with that type of environment in which we will be operating in next few years, our clients, they would be expecting us to do audit of these robots implementation, whether the system development controls were good enough, whether the change management around robots were good enough, whether the environments were well segregated, whether the machine learning algorithm used in some of these robots, whether they were biased or not. And if they were biased, to what extent of bias was there? Bias, as of now, bias will definitely be there in the machine learning algorithms. But as data scientist, the job of data science expert is to reduce and minimize the bias. And our job will be to give assurance to our client that yes, we have seen the bias has been reduced to minimal. If some of you are not sure of what I am talking about, I encourage you to please do Google of machine learning and the bias. So you will get some relevant material on that, and that is something, guys, which is coming to us very, very fast. Yeah, big data no longer new. I'm sure many of us are already doing advanced analytics and using terabytes and terabytes of data getting generated by our companies. IoT, Internet of Things, again, it is here for last few years, but still not very well adopted. And in next few years, it still carries premium. So sooner we enter into this space, better it is. The new age auditors, they are focusing, they are already focusing on either working for clients, working for companies which are into any of these spaces, or they are picking up skills so that they understand how these technologies work, and they understand how to audit, how to review governance around around these processes. So I believe, in addition to what we have been doing in the past as the scope of audit, these are going to be the focus area from your auditee perspective, from your audit committee members perspective. They will start asking you how you are giving assurance on mobile technologies, how you are giving assurance on 3D printing, how you are giving assurance on robotics, and so on. So slowly, focus of your stakeholders will move from traditional auditing scope to the newer risk areas, because the world is moving very fast. This I have already covered, that every new technology historically has around 12 to 14 years for its premium. Yeah. And artificial intelligence and machine learning, which I am referring to in last few slides, ladies and gentlemen, it started picking up around 2012. We are in 2022 right now. Another 2 to 3 years, artificial intelligence and machine learning will carry premium. After that, they will become commodity like MS Excel. What does that mean? It means today, if I tell anyone that, in addition to being chartered accountant, I know how to use MS Excel, I'm sure nobody is going to say, wow, that Rajiv, you know something which was not expected. It has become a commodity. I cannot tell anyone that in addition to being a chartered accountant, I know how to make fancy presentations. It is expected now because it has become a commodity. So ladies and gentlemen, artificial intelligence and machine learning is carrying premium only for the next couple of years or so. After that, it will become a commodity, which means from every professional, it will be expected to know, just like it is expected today that we should know Excel, MS Word, PowerPoint presentations, and so on. So that's how That's how the world is changing, and artificial intelligence and machine learning after 2-3 years won't be called emerging technologies, because it will be very widely adopted. So I have been saying last half an hour or so, that emerging technologies will be commoditized in next couple of years, and there will be no plan B. What does that mean? It will be presumed that AI and ML, something new will come up. I believe that something new will be focused on metaverse, NFTs, and so on. And that's a topic, maybe in some other, session, we can definitely go slightly deeper into it. But that may be the focus area in next few years as emerging technologies. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I have to summarize, what I said in terms of new age auditors. So, few key takeaways. Yeah, how our younger colleagues will look like. Number one, our younger colleagues, new age auditors, are going to be very much purpose driven. What does that mean? They are less of money driven. They are more of how my role, number one, how my role and how my company is adding value to the organization, to the society. So that is one very big change which is happening. Let me be very frank, ladies and gentlemen. When I was young, there are two things I used to see while joining an organization. Number one, whether that organization is reputed, yes or no. Number two, am I getting good money, yes or no. Purpose, later on, I used to get to know that what is the purpose of that organization. Yeah, and that used to be part of the first month induction, where we used to get to know what is the vision, what is the mission, and what are the objectives of the organization. But our younger colleagues, they are purpose driven. And you will ask me, but Rajiv, how they will know what is the vision and mission of the company before joining it? Our younger colleagues, younger chartered accountants, they don't need to join a company to get to know this. They have started following companies over social media. And that is where many new age companies, they are investing time, money, and leadership efforts in creating the right image in social media. And there are many examples. I would not like to name them, but there are many successful examples. And because of that, the new age, not only auditors, new age employees, they are very clear that what is the purpose of that particular company and whether I should be joining that or not. So this is going to be a very important game changer for us as well, to get the right talent from the market. Second is, our new age auditors are going to be more experimental and creative. What does that mean? Gone are the days, ladies and gentlemen, when people used to say, oh, I will join the Fortune 500 companies only. Yeah, no. The brightest of the minds coming from CA Institute, coming from best in class IIMs and IITs, they are experimenting. They are trying to be creative by joining many of the new age purpose driven organization. And what I'm saying is not something which cannot be corroborated. You would have in your own circle, you would have seen many examples of how some of the sharpest minds coming from CA fraternity or IIMs, they are going to experimental organizations. Yeah. New age auditors, ladies and gentlemen, are going to prefer hybrid work environment. Yeah. And that is something which, many of us as organizations, we have to think very strategically. If we want to hire and retain best in class talent, both in audit function and in other functions in future, what type of environment they are looking for and what type of environment we are providing. Second last point, carrying data science and IT audit certifications will become basic qualification. Yeah. Just like these days, nobody gets surprised when the moment we say, oh, we need an auditor, we by default say, yeah, we need chartered accountant. Yeah. That's a bare minimum we expect. Below CA, many of us say, okay, we'll not go. Similarly, the way every company is becoming data-driven organization, data science and IT audit certifications like DISA, CISA, and few others, they are going to be the basic expectation by the new age organizations, and it will no longer carry premium. So that will become the basic ask. And finally, the new age auditors, they are going to be actually the users of decentralized finance. They have already started using it, huh? And if you just Google, you will find that there are many such apps already available in India, and there are many young age professionals who have started, who have stopped going to banks, and who have started leveraging many of these apps which are making their life simple by being more peer to peer, and hence bringing those type of talent onto our board will enable us to complement our limitations. For example, I don't know much about NFTs as of today, but if I have someone on my team who knows a lot about NFTs, so my traditional auditing knowledge coupled with the new age auditors knowledge of how for example decentralized finance works, how the blockchain works, how metaverse will work, it is going to complement us in many ways. So with that, I will come to my final slide, and this is something, ladies and gentlemen, I have been saying for last 11 years now. This quote I have given, I have shared in many forums across the globe, that if you don't want to upskill, no problem, you can still survive using the skills you have learned in the past. But if you want to thrive, if you want to be ahead in the game, in this game of in this professional game, then the upskilling is the only option. Yeah. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I will take a pause here. That was all I wanted to share. Happy to pick up if there is any question.
Arun sir, you are looking at the questions. Okay, we'll be having the Q&A session from 6 to 6:20. So thank you so much, Karthik Gupta sir, for your wonderful questions. On behalf of Bangalore Banks and entire management of Bangalore Banks, I once again thank you so much for your wonderful answer and valuable questions. So let's move on to the technical.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Systems control, role of internal audit. For this, we have CA Pranath Desa. So I welcome Pranath sir for today's session. To give a brief introduction about Pranath sir, he has professional qualification includes FCA, DISA, FAFD, Bachelors of Commerce from Manchester University. He is presently partner at Mrs. C. Ramachandran and Co. Chartered Accountants, Hyderabad. He has also handled various professional works, which includes internal and external and forensic audits of large manufacturing, infrastructure, software, PSU companies. When it comes to bank, he is part of Central Statutory Auditor, Branch Statutory Auditor, Concurrent and Revenue Audits. He has also represented income tax, including international taxation, transfer pricing. Also, design and review of standard operating procedures as a part of SAP implementation audits. He is also part of study, review, and audit of internal financial controls of PSU, listed large manufacturing and private limited companies, carried out for forensic assessments of MNCs and large multinational companies. He is also a peer reviewer and ICI FRRB technical reviewer. He is also done various training programs, seminars, conferences at ICI since 2000. He is a regular speaker on e-filing, XML, XBRL, audits under CPS, GST. He is also visiting faculties at Income Tax Department, Staff College, Hyderabad, GST Central and State Government, Hyderabad, CMBG Staff Training, National Institute of Rural Development on Tools and Techniques of Internal Audit, Central Vigilance Officers on Digital Forensics. With this brief introduction, I once again welcome Pranath sir for today's session, and over to you, sir. yourself, sir. Relevance, sir. We are not able to hear you.
Right now. Just hold for a moment. Hello. Yeah, Premna is checking his voice right now. His systems, I think, is stuck somewhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the inconvenience. So just 5 minutes.
I say Bangalore. Hello. Hello.
Internal audit or RCM, then we can check for our team.
We can take up the question answer right now. Hello. For first two speakers, we can take up the questions right now.
Zoom or Teams. You can
I'm logged in, ready for the questions.
Can this open the question and answers panel? Just 1 second. Is it audible, sir? So there is a question from Sachin Purushottam. How to analyze system controls?
The question is how to analyze system controls.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
to do that, what you have to do is you'll have to first map the business process. Normally, for auditors, they'll use a BPMN swim lane diagram. Not a difficult diagram, it's fairly straightforward. You map the business process, then you identify all the places where controls are required. I mean, that you do before get to the system. You identify the locations where controls have to be introduced, and then you write out what that control is supposed to do. I mean, if I suppose I'm looking at a purchase order, I want to know whether there's a tender for it, the price is already agreed upon, etc., etc. So we do all that, and then the next step is you will have to take the software or whatever they are using, and then test that control in one of the two ways, either through test data or I mean, if test data is the only way to check it, you can do that. Or you may have to do it through analyzing existing data in the system, either test data or existing data in the system. So those two are fine. The third, I'll club those as one. This other way of doing it is you'll have to evaluate the control in the software by maybe going to the code or simulation. If the code doesn't run independently, you'll have to do some simulation. Normally, you have to call. Usually, that happens in SQL scripts, where you may have to call the script. Depends what we know. Either we write a small Java program or something and call that script and execute it. So that is the next step. The reference for this will be GTAG8, GTAG8. That's a Global Technology Audit Guide. If you go through the GTAG8, it will give you all the requirements on how to do an application controls audit. Has that answered the question?
The next question is from Ashish. So what is the scope of internal audit work in present situation?
It's very high because the internal audit becomes the third line of defense. A problem here, I'll tell you what the problem is. Most internal auditors focus on the financial aspect of vouchers and payments and so on. Generally, a company will have pretty good control there. They use, I mean, it's a big company, they have a lot of software. If it's a smaller company, owners keep track of the funds. So, but what companies generally look forward as a value addition is on the operational audit. So they expect the auditor to to do a lot of things on the operations. That's why we say business acumen. So our SQC 1 talks about the ability to understand the business. So if you are doing a bank, they want any other than financial aspects. You got market risk, credit risk, operational risk. Basel 3 has a lot of things to be done. If it's an infrastructure company, again the same thing: procurement, consumption, compliances. In fact, if we start looking at compliances itself, there is a huge scope for internal audit. Of course, operational audits will definitely make it better. What's the next question?
Efficiency in internal audit.
Sorry.
The next question is how to increase efficiency in internal audit.
Internal audit. Mr. Rajiv, would you like to answer that?
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
See, efficiency is about getting more things done in lesser time. And that is where your data analysis can come to your rescue. And as I said earlier, more and more companies, they are generating that amount of data which was earlier not getting generated. And our stakeholders, whether it is audit committee or whether it is CEO or the CFO, they are expecting us to give assurance on complete data rather than testing 25 or 50 or X number of samples. Whether it is COVID lockdown or before that, I think for efficiency, the best possible use is through a data analysis. And, many of us, have one misconception. We feel that if I know how to use Excel, reasonably well, if I know how to apply pivot, how to apply filters, and how to apply some of the formulas, we are good in data analysis. That is actually not the case. The way companies are expecting to use data analysis, it has gone beyond the simple use of Excel. It is more about how you can, bring storytelling into it, how you can use it for descriptive analysis, prescriptive analysis, predictive analytics. And for that, you have to go beyond Excel. Now, there are some experts who know Excel much better than me, but again, that also has some limitation. So it is right time for us if we want to increase not only efficiency, but also effectiveness in how we add value during our audits. I think it is high time for us to learn beyond Excel. There are many open source tools which are available. You don't really need to purchase license. There are many tools in which you can do data analysis. There are many visualization tools available. There are some free of cost, but there are many which are coming up with reasonable cost, which the companies are expecting us to use to increase our both efficiency and effectiveness. I hope that answers the question. So we can move to the next one. What is the role of CA in future as an internal auditor, and what are the responsibilities of an internal auditor? See, as I was briefing, I briefly touched in my presentation. In the future, growth is happening both in the technology space as well as in the data space. These are the two spaces where the growth is happening. You have to decide whether you want to go in the data space or you want to go into the technology space. Both are different in terms of expertise. You can try to do both together, but I prefer to go for specialization. So I suggest you focus on one first, either data or technology, and then look for opportunities accordingly. Because both in audit department as well as in finance department, CAs can play a big role in setting up the right control environment, which we call as IT application controls in the technical language. And they can also play a role in bringing these advanced analytics, both in the finance department as well as in audit department. And when I say finance, and I would refer to what Paul was referring to, the first line, second line, and fourth line, for example, as well. So that's how. So we have to decide these newer areas we would like to go for expertise. Yeah. Is there any other question?
Next question is they're asking about the presentations. So can I ask someone from technical team like where it will be shared? So whether it will be shared to all the participants or it will be some link you will be providing.
I'll mail it to the IASB. I think they will decide because these seminars are done regular
Sure, sir.
intervals, so I'm sure it will be there somewhere.
Fine, sir. Next question is from Mr. K. Sampath Kumar. More and more entities, including banks and FIS, are going for internal audit through their own staff, irrespective of whether they are professionally qualified or otherwise. Maybe driving force for them is cost and convenience. Is this trend going to be good or bad? And impact on profession of CA if digitization and own staff team together win over professionals?
See, there are multiple questions there. The first one is whether own staff are good or bad. Worldwide, own staff are always used for internal audit, except where the competency is not available with own staff. Now, in India, what happened was internal audit was generally outsourced. But if we see the knowledge, when we say operational knowledge and so on, uh, a financial statutory auditor sometimes may not have the quality of and the qualification or not qualification, the experience or the business knowledge to do an operational audit. So there what happens is consulting firms can get in, cost accountants can also be internal auditors. There are a lot of changes going on in law. So we can have both internal people working, which is not a very big trend right now. Some companies have, some don't. The other is the companies which have internal staff ask for staff from outside audit firms and consulting firms. They call it co-sourcing. That is the staff taken from outside are not external internal auditors. They work as a part of the internal audit team itself. The third possibility is, of course, they give it out completely. But then, as the question asked is, what is the future? How will it go ahead? It all depends on how we scale up for the operational part of the business. What we call the, I showed you that maps and you do RCMs. For instance, a finance RCM will usually have the receivables, payables, treasury, something. But once you come out of that, everything else becomes operational. Like a frozen food company, how do they manage losses or storage? If it's a logistics company, how do they manage transshipment? Now, that knowledge, if you keep on developing, then obviously you will not become obsolete. Auditor will always be relevant. The financial auditor, of course, not much scope because there it's more an assurance function. Internal audit is also assurance, but it also has to deal with a lot of things on the operational compliance, efficiency, profitability, costing, those kind of areas.
So next question is from Milan.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir. So next question is from Milan. Can you give any context for doing data science and data analysis courses?
Maybe I can start and please add. See, for data science programs, there are two things. Number one, there are many data science related programs which are available. There are some which are very technical, where you learn a lot of programming. And there are some programs where you learn more from the management and the leadership side. So depending upon your work experience and what you're planning to do after learning data science, are you planning to manage a team of data scientists, or you're planning to do scripting yourself, programming yourself? So there is one criteria which you have to use while selecting the course. Second, I suggest you go for one of the top 5. These top 5, they keep changing. You normally see, things like institutes like IIMs and great learning in top 5. My recommendation is click pick one of the top 5. Don't experiment outside of that. So you can just Google it, top 5 in year 2021. Some of the IIMs and Great Learning and other would be available in there. Paul, please add.
Actually, from the analytics point of view, we'll have to be clear whether you're doing audit analytics or you're just looking at analytics in general for a client service. For audit analytics, you can use like Power BI, Tableau, mostly visualization tools, where you can pull out. Earlier, it used to be ACL and IDEA, but today they have got a lot of these open source or at least cloud-based open source tools. So audit analytics is a lot easier because it's all descriptive statistics. That means past data is analyzed and you come out with trends and outliers and so on. But as Mr. Rajiv was saying, if you're looking at a serious analytics, if you're going to look at predictive models and so on, then you need to do a serious course on statistics and not just analytics, but statistics and possibly a small programming language like R or Python or something, so that, but actually most of the auditors, unless you're very young and you're starting a career, you may not fit into the analytics part because all maths and statistics, but predictive, maybe if it's not there, the audit analytics is definitely within the reach of the auditor and you can definitely go through it. We can go to the next question.
Is there any other question?
Yes, sir. Next question is from Geeta. How can we dive into data science from CA perspective? What are the basic courses can we do? I think it is.
We have discussed that.
Yeah. Next question is from Mandar. Which platforms can we use to unskill ourselves with new technologies?
See, platforms are many, and I would not like, from my side, I would not like to promote or advocate anyone. Depending upon, again, the level, what level of knowledge you are looking for, whether it is foundational knowledge. For example, for metaverse, NFTs, I'm at starting level, I would say. And hence, I may not be spending lakhs and lakhs of rupees in learning them right now. I'm going for online courses like Udemy and others to firstly see if I have interest in that. Yeah. If I like, then I will be going for more professional and more serious courses on that. So for these emerging technologies, I encourage you to firstly check if you have interest in that one, instead of burning lakhs of rupees and then realizing, oh, that's not something which is your area of interest. There are many good platforms which are available right now. Including this Upgrad, Udemy, Coursera, Unacademy. I have used all of them for different programs. But again, it depends which program you are looking for and what level of specialization you are looking for. Yeah.
The next question is from Balaji. Sir, with the advent of
we can go to the next question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. With the advent of new ISO certification, many risk objectives are covered in or as mandatory. Can the auditor rely on the internal audit report for the compliance?
Yeah, see, audit evidence is what you're asking. You can depend on the report if you feel that auditor, the ISO auditor has done a good job. There are two types of ISO auditors, one who simply sign a report, the others which genuinely carry out the audit. So now it's left to the internal auditor to decide how much, let's say, not faith, but how much he would depend on the report which is issued by a third party. Normally it is accepted, but if you feel it's only a kind of a surface level audit, okay, when I showed you the diagram, I showed you dark blue means deep assurance, light blue is only shallow assurance. If you feel it's shallow assurance, then it's better you look into your areas where you feel it's high risk, and re-audit is preferable because anyway you will be signing the report, so you have to be careful and also have sufficient evidence on what you are signing off. That's my point. Mr. Ajay, would you like to add
No,
something?
no, sir. Yeah, very well summed
It's a
up.
little tough in a public forum to talk about shallow audit and deep audit, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
Next question is from you, sir. Sir, for various ERP systems, can we use audit board, audit tools program for any ERP system? Please advise.
See, my experience is audit board is just like any other audit management system, or the document management system. It can help you in defining those workflows, yeah, including your audit planning, your audit field work, your audit closing, review of documentation of work papers, documenting your risk controls, and so on. But I don't think any such tool can help you in doing the audit. So, for example, I mean, if you have to do IT application controls review, these tools will not help. Or if you have to do ITGC or anything of that sort. So these are documentation tools which document the workflow. For you to prove that you have performed all the audit process, all the audit steps appropriately, so that tomorrow, for your own quality assurance review, you can demonstrate that you have executed audit very well, right from the planning till the report release. So that's my experience, not only with audit board. I mean, various tools, auto audit, laser, and so on, whichever you have used. Paul, you have anything to add, please?
No, it's fine. I mean, it's the same thing. You have to go back to GTAG 8 and have a look at the process, the controls. What Mr. Ajay said is absolutely true. You will have to identify what business process that ERP is doing. Particularly if it's customized, you'll have to definitely find out what it's doing.
Yeah.
We can go to the next question.
I think still a lot of questions are there. So Premnath sir is ready with this presentation. Can we proceed with the session and then we'll take up the Q&A later, sir?
Super. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv also. Thank you.
And over to Premnath sir.
Am I audible now, sir? Kindly confirm.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely sorry for the inconvenience caused. As I was trying to connect my new laptop, but the audio was not functioning well. I've just shifted back to my old laptop. Anyhow, I thank IASP for and Bangalore branch for giving me this fantastic opportunity. I'm privileged to share dance with Paul sir and Rajiv Gupta sir. Their presentations were extremely extremely very good. Let me make my presentation. Jaikar sir has already set a stone for the tone at the top. So I would like to start with fraud because controls are major purpose of controls is to prevent fraud or error and compliance and then safeguarding the assets and all those things. But fraud is a little larger one now, considering the technological evolutions and all those issues and the legal framework, judiciary, and so on, external environments. Fraud has become a big nuisance. So considering those, I would like to start this. So when I say about this, yeah. So in recent times, Supreme Court has said that chairman, managing director, ED, or senior officials can't be held vicariously liable for the criminal acts of company. And on the other side, you see there are cases filed. If you can just look at this website, number of cases filed in 2020 alone. In 2020 alone, 200 cases were filed, amounting to 70,000 crores, or it says 1 lakh crores. As it is said in the media that there are 3 lakh crores involving banking frauds alone. And if this is on one side, the investigations, on the other side, the Supreme Court talking about chairman, managing director, ED, or senior officials can't be held vicariously liable for criminal acts of company. Under this, we, the chartered accountants or internal auditors, we are sandwiched in this. And now, considering this, let's move ahead. I would like to just show you certain, we're talking about the controls, system controls. I would take up few cases from the CBI website, which is now openly available. CBI government, then there are thousands of cases there, and you can download. And this is one particular case. Okay, let me just quickly go there and then look at few of the cases and look at system controls which has made it possible, or where the controls were weak. So this is one such, let me just take you to the, yeah, this is what I was referring to, the CPA site. You can just have a look at, and anything randomly you pick up, any case you pick up randomly from this, you will find a case like this where you will find company has not followed these terms, that borrower submitted quotations in the name of so-and-so, and however, the invoices were submitted in the name of. What is this control lapse? The control lapse here is that the system through which the procurement to pay controls are weak. The company which has committed this fraud, it highlights that the procurement to pay systems were not properly activated, and then you find these kind of things. And here, and that is one issue, and you can just see here another 40 consignment notes bearing vehicles, but these vehicles are not appearing in the Ministry of Road. Not only this, recently on 18th January, CBI Chennai has filed a case wherein E&Y has done a forensic audit. It has shown that more than 1,000 lorry numbers were tracked, and wherein those lorry numbers were supposed to, those lorry numbers are not the lorry numbers, but they are the motorcycle numbers and trailer earth moving equipment numbering. The validation of, again, the supply chain management validation controls were missing. Then transportation related validation controls were missing. Then which is procurement to pay as a part of procurement to pay. As we go on into the SAP controls, I just demonstrate the transport related, logistics related controls were not at all effective in these cases, and hence fraud. Like this, you have, like this, we have so many, like this, we have so many cases here where you can, we can find thousands and thousands of crores of cases where you can again see that the LCs are not backed up, and closing stock is not properly, meaning that accounting controls finalized, internal financial controls with financial controls of finalizing the accounts control were weak. This is what I was saying, that the registration number does not exist for the LRs. This is what it says here: is scooters and were used And this is how you look at any case that is filed in the in this website. After every one in every five cases, you will definitely find one bank for, and in that you will find a lot of control weaknesses. All this indicates that Sir Jaykumar sir was talking about the tone at the top was missing and the tone at the top was wrong, and because of that 3 lakh crores has resulted into, and this is an opportunity or this is a challenge, and this is what the internal or external auditors has to look into, and let us look into all those control weaknesses and accordingly respond for a much larger sample users and professional skepticism. Let me just move on to the presentation again. So, having said about it, banks themselves has a biggest weakness. Banks themselves have a biggest weakness. If we let's look at the customer master maintenance, wherein you find a lot of data is collected, lot of data about the beneficial owner, the account operator details, then beneficiary owners, place of residence, name, group is also available in customer master maintenance of a bank. I am just sharing the financial screenshot of a customer master maintenance. You can look into the major deficiencies. If a company where we are talking about in one of the frauds the CBI has filed, there were 65 group companies. There were 65 group companies, and all those group companies were operating in one bank, but never the branch has bothered to highlight that these accounts are under a group, meaning if at all, the banks were serious in tracking the related party transactions. Of course, wherever there is a fraud, the biggest nuisance is diversion of funds, and that diversion of funds is among the related parties and closely held group companies or friends in the companies. And many of the forensic reports have stated that many of these companies were lying in one building, one address, with one email ID, with one operator, with one phone number or one address, and so on, common things. And such common things can easily be highlighted through a customer master maintenance if these fields were made mandatory and validated properly. This is the word validated, I'll come back again, which talks about preventive controls. I'm going into very deep, basic, very basic things I'm going into. I'm saying here the group is not entered into, though, say one particular, like we have seen some 1,200 crores of one borrower. He has 65 group companies, and all the group companies were operated by one single person. In that case, the branch is aware of, the bank is aware of. What I'm saying here is, if among the 65 from the borrower account, if the amounts are going into multiple accounts of the same borrower, same operator, then why can't a syntax be written to block those items, meaning any transactions that are routed or initiated or ended into the group, wherever it is made as a group, they would have stopped it and made it as two or three layer checks would have been possible. Yes, if that kind of validation is there, it is a preventive control, meaning the system will not allow payments within the group companies. That is one thing. Okay, it has crossed this validation. The validation of preventive control has failed. Next, if prevention fails, next comes the role of a detective one. In case of a detective, once it is missed, yes, you have not done it, but the data analytics could have been there, like Rajiv sir was talking about the AI and all. Yes, today it's possible. The kind of transactions that 1,200 crores company or 8,200 crores company, which has become a fraud company, the transactions that were happening, the system could have on a monthly basis or on a daily basis, they could have as a detective mechanism, and they would have generated an exceptional report, and then they would have closed it in 2 or 3 days of time. Now, this was not done, meaning that in the banks, which has resulted in 3 lakh crores, 3 lakh crores of frauds, which are in the nature of diversion, which are in the nature of related party, maximum is related party transactions. The bank would have stopped if these controls, if preventive control was strong enough, if validation controls are strong enough, if detective mechanism of generating exceptional reports or at least corrective mechanisms, that would have been fantastic. Meaning, I am talking about at the bank level, at the lower level, when you are collecting so much of data, you can look at about 18 screens of 18 screens has to be rolled to create a customer master in a bank. So much are there, but how many fields are mandatory? How many fields are mandatory? How many fields are really validated with the external source? Like, say, for example, today in DIN, while creating a DIN under MCA portal, if unless I give my PAN number or an Aadhaar number, my DIN will not be generated. The name which I type in the MCA portal for creating DIN number, if it doesn't match with already validated income tax site, it doesn't allow me to go further. Now, how many of our clients' data is validated while the data is entered into? We'll see much of the examples. If such kind of validations are there in the bank or at our major clients' places, probably much of the 3 lakh crores or whatever it is would have stopped long back. This is what I thought I'll add on while I discussed with these things. Hence, it is related. I just touched upon validation controls with respect to these, because it is ERP. You have to gather a lot of information. Yes, controls is decision making is based on the information is gathered in sites like this, in the fields like this, and these information needs to be validated as a preventive control, and the quality of the data will decide about the quality of decision making and so on. That's where Rajiv sir was talking about AI and machine learning. Yeah. Then, who is defrauding whom? This is very important for understanding the what kind of controls needs to be put into the system. You can just see the owners and managers through company defrauding the shareholders, competitors and company, each of them defrauding. Companies defrauding government for tax evasions, employees defrauding the company with expense embezzlement, theft of cash, IP and all. Companies defrauding insurance, fraudulent claims. Then vendors are defrauding company with short shipment, double billing, false billing and so on, kickbacks and all. Then customers and third party vis-a-vis the owners, both of all the three are involved in false bad checks and then false advertisement and so on and so on and so on. Now, in all these things, it's the tone at the top which needs to be set proper. That's what Paul sir was referring to. I'll come back to that in the next slide. Yes, this is where it is. Here, this I understand. I'm just trying to present the total landscape of internal audit and the system controls. As sir was the first presentation by Paul sir was extremely well. He was talking about mapping all these things through various mapping system. It's fantastic, really. That's what I just put it into one place where risks can come from the legal, cultural, global integration, bureaucratic setup. Risks can be from information systems. That's what Rajiv sir was talking about. Application system, I'll cover in the next slide. Capacity management, automation, system security, disaster recovery management, data management center, And risks can be from the transactions regarding bookkeeping, summation, classification, and so on. And all this upon the objective policy, procedure, rules, and methods. So what is that controls are? System controls are none other than a written rule or a written method or a written procedure which comes out of the policy, and policy comes out of the objective. That's what Paul Sir has put on an extremely well a spreadsheet where each policy was tracked. It's mind blowing. Each policy was tracked, each procedure was tracked for the compliance risk, high risk, low risk, and medium risk assurance for each of this. And that's what I'm just trying to talk about, looking at the ethics, culture, family background of corporate governance, value, transparency, and accountability, meaning tone at the top is none other than these. If this is well, then this is good, and if this is good, rest of the things work on well. And hence I say, why controls? Why controls is, as I've said already, it is prevention, detection of fraud and error, compliance, protection of assets. I'll come back what kind of compliance and what kind of mind-blowing opportunities to the internal auditors when coming back to the compliance itself. Compliance itself is a big business for the chartered accountants, is least bothered. I'll just come back to it a little later now. So prevention and detection. Prevention, I've just shown you now one simple, with one simple screen, I have shown you what is that prevention is all about, and then detection, I'll go back with so many other things again. If prevention fails, through data analytics, detection comes out. And now, as Rajiv sir was talking about, ML and AI are also being put into the preventive validations, because prevention is better than cure. And then if prevention fails with the detection, detection is all about report generation, detection is all about data analytics, detection is all about correcting fraud or error and complaints and so on. So what are the controls? It is, that's what I said, preventive, detective, corrective, and compliance. And these can be system or manual. And as Rajiv sir was talking about the ML and AI and the blockchain is all about system driven. Now, when integration and validation is happening across, like that's what blockchain is all about. The blockchain, as instead of myself validating the PAN number properly, the supplier PAN number, the vendor's GSTN number, and the logistics some controls, instead of myself validating it manually under maker and checker, now the blockchain is taking that aspect and then putting into the smart contracts into place, and the smart contracts and the validation, the contract terms and validation of all these things is being carried on a field called, on a platform called blockchain, where now IBM has come out with supply chain management blockchain. Now that's where we are moving into. If that kind of preventives are not there, whatever activities that a blockchain does, that I have to do it manually as a part of detective mechanism. Okay, coming back next again. Okay, I'm saying about all this controls and all this. Whose baby is it? Is it the shareholder, board of directors, or chairman, or managing director, or CFO, CEO? Whose baby is all this? As we have just now seen here in the very first slide, the Supreme Court itself has said the chairman, managing director, ED, or senior officials can't be vicariously liable unless proved otherwise. Meaning, and it's very tough considering the environmental, legal, political, judiciary system background we have. So hence what I'm trying to say again and again here is, if the shareholder is powerful, tone at the top, why so much? The more powerful you have, many state governments which are run on a state one political parties, like say for example Telangana or West Bengal or Tamil Nadu, or Delhi, or for that matter, the shareholders or the one leader is so powerful. Now, what kind of corporate governance they have? And we have seen certain initiatives have been backed, control Z of certain initiatives at the central government also. Now, what kind of power they have, the ethical
Your voice is not audible, sir.
sorry, small hitch in the connection. Yeah. Okay. Coming back again here,
Please share the PPT, sir.
I was talking about system management spectrum, wherein I was talking
We are not
about
able to see
application
your
system
PPT.
management, application performance management, and so on. Needs to be put into place is a big opportunity. That's what Rajiv sir was also highlighting it. Then, as Rajiv sir has said, I'll just skip this and then move on. So this is what the emerging technologies sir was talking about. And to put it in a very light way, that today the Swiggy, Zomato, all those delivery boys are using mobile cloud, and all those cloud is working on the digital service delivery with big data, social collaboration, and now the blockchain, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, IoT payment systems. When all these things are used by Swiggy and Swiggy, Zomato, or Ola, Uber providers, and how far we, the chartered accountants, are using these kind of technologies in rendering our services, what we need to understand. Now, this is at
We are
the
not able
this
to
is
see
what
your presentation. PPT, sir. Please share the PPT.
yes, sir.
Yeah, please share the PPT, sir. We are not able to see your screen.
Yes, yeah. Yes. Kindly confirm, sir.
We are not able to see, sir.
Do not
Yeah, now we are able to see. Okay, no, sir. Still not able to see.
okay, sir.
Just 1 second, sir.
Okay, sir. Sir, is this okay?
I think some issues are still. It is
Okay.
showing.
Just
Sir, if bandwidth issue is there, please turn off your video and you can share the PPT, sir.
is it shared now, sir?
We are not able to see, sir. It is showing like started share screening, double click to enter full screen mode like that. It is showing, but we are not able to see the presentation. Or you can unshare and then reshare. Okay.
Yeah, I just answered. Just
Yes, sir. Now we are able to see. You can do full screen and then slideshow and then. Hello.
yeah, I'm connecting from the other system, sir. Sir, is this okay, sir?
Sir, you can do full screen view.
Yeah, yes. Right. Is this
Yes,
okay, sir?
Yeah, fine, sir.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So I was referring to we were talking about the operational issues, and then now we are moving into managing information or cyber risk. There's a total um scope of cyber or cyber risk or operational issues, and we need to plug in and analyze, find out the risks involved in all these. A lot of issues in the cyber, because we are talking about, we heard about Rajiv sir talking about everything is moving into cyber, and then there's going to be huge risk. Our internal auditors needs to be well versed in these cyber risks. So much the Rajiv sir talked about, and we didn't talk about, we didn't even know 5 years back what can happen once a risk of corona kind of a thing hits. No one has could able to imagine it. Now, what I'm trying to understand, what I'm trying to emphasize here is, going forward, if total information technology assets are getting concentrated onto the cyber, onto few platforms, now what kind of power outage risks that can come on, and what kind of cyber attacks, security attacks can happen in the days to come is much serious thing. I think enough studies are being onto it, but still it is ever evolving and it's a challenging place, and that's where Rajiv sir was saying that this is an opportunity which we all should jump and take it at the right time. Why I'm emphasizing here is, again, due to the information technology evolution, the barriers or the boundaries of chartered accountant are broken, and there are now no boundaries, meaning that an engineer is entering into GST practice. An engineer is today controlling the income tax returns filing through clear tax, and an engineer is controlling the GST or income tax filing through a clear tax kind of a thing, or Zoho kind of a thing, and so on and so on. And this is how our domain is broken, and we are exposed, and we are losing our monopoly day by day because of the technology. And then, if I am not moving out, someone else is coming into my area of practice, but I am not moving into the other areas wherein I am becoming fast obsolete. And then we need to recognize this and then move on into right pace. Having said that, this again, what are the professional? Having said this, I would like to just spend some time on 1 or 2 minutes on the professional opportunities of the Information Technology Act. One and only one section, which is giving fantastic opportunities to the chartered accountant. That is none other than Section 43A of the Income Tax Act. What it says is sensitive personal information needs to be protected, and wherever systems carry sensitive personal information, wherever it carries, those systems has to be audited under ISO under ISO 27001. By whom? By an ESA auditor or a DISA auditor, wherein CERT-in has started collecting the information. Now, my request to the ICAI or to the prominent members across who are listening, to put force onto the central government or put force onto the CERT to make the chartered accountants who are ESA and CISA qualified automatically empanel them, so that we all get a fantastic opportunity for this audit under, and that audit is under section 43A. For the systems needs to be under 27001. Now, how that works on, let me just spend 1 more minute on it. I think the sheet is visible. I think the sheet is visible, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sir, is the sheet visible, sir?
Just zoom in a little bit. Or it is fine, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to display here is a checklist on section 43A. I'll just read out, which talks about IT amendment, body corporate. Who is body corporate? The section 43A defines who is body corporate. Body corporate includes firm, includes sole proprietary firm, other organizations, including corporates and so on and so on, commercial or professional. We all fall into this because we are all collecting sensitive personal information like physical or biometric devices. We all carry their data, personal data. So even chartered accountant organizations come under this 43A. That's a different issue altogether. But still, the point what I am trying to say here is, we have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity wherein we can take this opportunity of 43A and work on into it. Let me just go on to the presentation again. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, so I was talking about what are internal controls. So I just talked about this in the earlier slides itself, safeguarding assets, prevention and detection of fraud, and so on. Let me just quickly move into the real controls. This is where why we need system internal controls. Why we need system internal controls. It talks about internal controls are essential risk mitigation steps taken to strengthen organization systems and process. What systems and process? Those systems and process, I just talk about procurement to pay very quickly, and some of the WBS elements, and then supply chain management I may not able to cover because of the time, but I'll quickly run through the procurement to pay SAP related controls where the controls are weak and where the systems are taking too much of time, and a huge contingent liability with respect to the GST liabilities and so on. I'll just discuss that case law, the case study. So procurement to pay, we are talking about mitigating steps taken to strengthen organization systems and process. Remember, this is where we have seen huge vehicle bills, vehicle numbers which were captured were not the vehicle actual numbers because there is a validation error, maker and checker error. Because of that, the procurement to pay has failed and there are a lot of frauds and errors. That is procurement to pay, order to cash, WBS work, breakdown structure, material management, and then enterprise warehouse management, that is supply chain management, inventory management, fixed assets, eco, and so on and so on. These are all the process controls which will give rise to a proper internal financial controls. In terms of whatever controls I am talking, those controls are preventive, detective, corrective, and compensative. Preventive we have already understood. Correct. Detective is a lot of analytical and maker and checker. And then operational controls are in the process of business operations. All these things are system driven. When it is system driven, then IT general controls needs to be looked into. All this area falls into the area of chartered accountant. Now, earlier I have just said here, including policies, compliance to acts, and so on. But let me just spend few minutes on the compliance part of it. Yeah, this is yeah. Yes. So we have for a small cement industry I'm just talking about, or for that matter, you can just look at the number of laws, number of acts, 1075 line item of acts. You can just look at for labor alone, This is what I said, the kind of value addition we can make. Of course, some industries may not fall into it, but this is the compliance kind of it. Now for cement alone, I have just tracked for cement alone, the kind of acts for cement alone, almost 105 acts for cement alone, and various compliances, you can just have a look at. The total number of compliances are 2,194. Now all these compliances will be in terms of compliance header. What are all the compliance headers, like what compliances you have here? So many things in a particular preparation of invoices and so on and so on and so on. These are all the list of compliances. Compliance description is given here, tracked here. Clause event based is whether it is ongoing or time based or whatever. Compliance frequency, whether it is half yearly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly, and criticality, yes or no, and I have a link of it, and penalty descriptions for non-compliance, default dates, various default dates, and proof of compliance activity, and so on and so on and so on. Now, this is what I said, when the areas for the internal audit or when the areas for the chartered accountant are shrinking, we are saying that GST audit is taken away, income tax audit is taken away, and NEFRA is saying we are coming out with SME need not be audited, and these kind of things. Under these situations, we have fantastic opportunities waiting. We need to migrate into cross the borders into other areas and make our presence felt. And I said here so many things here. Acts. Now, this is because we are associated with the corporate finances, and where corporates have compliances, why can't we enter into these areas, make specializations into it? And this is what I thought I can share with you from the controls point of view. Coming back again, types of controls, as I've already said. When I go into practical cases, let me just cover those. Yes, this is one a critical a case study, a practical thing where we have faced the turnover of that is running around 10,000 crores. I don't want to name it, but it's a government one. We have seen due to SAP configuration issues, GST compliance is presently carried out manually without predefined set of processes, leading to undercharge of GST, non-availment of ITC, and over-availment of ITC is happening. Though it is working under SAP, multiple locations are connected to that SAP, and you can imagine 10,000 crores, a small the sale bill will be as low as even 500 rupees. The sale bill is as low as 500 rupees. Now you can imagine what kind of controls. Let me just walk through this. Now, in a procurement to pay, when they start with agreement, this is what I've just said about the 1,200 crores fraud where the CBI has said none of the agreements are validated. In many forensic auditors have said the agreements are not available. Even if it is there, it's not validated, not available, not properly validated. Now, in an agreement, based on the agreement, can I take out and fix the tax code in SAP? Can I, based on the purchase of material or purchase requisition or purchase order, can I make that PO number posted in it without any defects in the tax code? In the same way, payments, narrations, and so on, they are all not well maintained in SAP where procurement to pay. So let me just quickly run through. At present, the agreement, the process is agreement number, description, and so on, were not properly mapped into it, and because of it, they are not the company is not in a position to identify whether eligible ITC or the ITC is excess or short charge. And there is no maker checker concepts, involves skilled manpower with duplication of work. Huge manpower cost is spent on as a part of maker and checker where it can be avoided. I'll just show you an example. Nature of transactions cannot be identified properly because of wrong configuration. This is a big opportunity for the chartered accountants as a part of internal audit to fix those controls. Then, since service code or relevant GL account is not properly mapped, it's leading to wrong posting of GL accounts, and wrong posting of GL accounts is resulting in again ineligible ITC and so on, duplications and so on. Let me just quickly run through this. If this is an agreement, the amount of the agreement can very well be mapped into the PO and attach this agreement to the SAP as an evidence. You have somewhere you can add through one of these modules. You can simply add this, and the same number can be picked it through a auto scanning or through code. QR code can be generated with this, and once scan the QR code, the data can be easily plugged in so that you can avoid validation, data entry errors. And you can just see the tax code while I am entering the PO. The tax code is not properly taken here, and because of it, there's a lot of issues in configuration. And these are certain credit availment, refers to the credit availment, NCR, and these are all not properly taken care, these credits are available, these codes are available in SAP, but they are not fixed into it. And the implication is there is no specific way to identify the eligible inputs, meaning it is so easy that the system gives it, but given point in the tone at the top, this is what Paul sir was talking about, the tone at the top was so weak. Being a government company, no one was taking responsibility for implementation. And this is where it's an opportunity for a chartered accountant to pitch in and say, yes, we can resolve it. And these are all the issues. Then you have many things like this. I just put on here the agreement purchase order is posted by the same person. And because of it, there are again errors into it. So let me just come back to proposed system as because of the paucity of time. So I'll just share. You can just see here the tax codes are not assigned at the time of PO. Because of this, the big work of ITC reconciliation has gone for a big heavy. And where if you can just fix in automatically on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, you can get the tax returns automatically generated. Because of small things, it's not been done, and there is a huge liability happened in that company as a part of contingent liability. Of course, they are fighting hard on that. Now, what I've summarized here, the earlier presentation, I've just put it summarized here. Anyhow, I'll just share this presentation, hence it will be self-study for you instead of reading out. I'll just move on into the other interesting areas. Yeah. So be it SAP or be it Tally or whatever it is, more the data you collect. That's what I've just shown you the banking system while they were creating the masters. 18 screens of data is being passed on, collected. In the same way, more the data you collect, like you can just see here the customer data. More the data captured through proper validation, better preventive and detective controls can be achieved. Under procurement to pay, business process through procedures and control accounting is possible. Now, once you are able to understand, meaning even today, Tally is so much robust that you can add on. Tally is customized to a larger extent, and you can start working on it. That's where the value addition can be given by a chartered accountant now. Now, this is at PO stage. I'm just saying here at PO stage, if you are able to capture the data, accounting entries as a preventive control, like say, here I'm saying raw material repairs and maintenance to a building staff. I'm just collecting at service level only. I'm just trying to say it. Once you can just see here, I'm just taking here and here, when I'm able to link it, the moment material is taken at the store, at the gate level, when they scan the document, when the data is entered automatically, then the entries are posted up to the balance sheet level without any errors. It all depends upon preventive controls. If these controls are not there, if the data is not properly mapped, lot of detective mechanism has to be put in place. Lot of maker and checker issues has to be put in place, it's going to cost a lot. And this is what you can just see here. I'm talking about WBS element, capitalization. We have seen many times capitalization is the biggest nuisance in companies where factory is set up. Now, we don't know whether certain equipment is really has to go into the fixed assets or it has to go into repairs and maintenance. But at the time of creating the purchase order itself, you are able to give the account number and track it to CWIP properly. The moment this item number comes into the WBS element, work breakdown structure, like procurement to pay is for purchases, order to cash is for sales, WBS element work breakdown structure is for fixed assets accounting. Now, if you are able to do this, now the capitalization is no more a big issue. This is where account assignment can be done. For every inward account assignment can be done before the purchase is initiated. Mind it, because of the absence of these issues, we have seen 1,200 crores worth of frauds, banking frauds, meaning an internal auditor or an external auditor needs to work on into this. The management or the lenders or the investors need to ask these kind of controls whether they are existing and so on and so on. That's where a real value addition is towards the chartered accountant. Now coming back again. So this is where I've just again taken that WBS element. I'll create a WBS element. WBS element is, I'm saying, say, a plant and machinery. The reference to this is a plant and machinery, meaning whatever I am buying here, whatever I am buying through this purchase order, through this maintenance, from this vendor, accounting it, in the next stage, I am linking this particular purchases to this particular machinery at the initial stage itself. I hope you are able to understand. If this much of customization is done properly, and this is a very big opportunity for the chartered accountants, be it internal audit or whatever, you can take it as an assignment. And these kind of customizations can be done even at the levels of tally also. And now you can understand what kind of value addition we can give to the clients instead of at the year-end audit struggling hard for the capitalization, for GST reconciliation, for TDS reconciliation, for HR reconciliation, for fixed assets reconciliation. Instead of that, if you are involved proactively at the beginning as an internal auditor, you can understand the kind of value addition that we can make in customization. These are all system controls I'm talking about. These are all validation controls. These are all preventive controls I'm referring to. Coming back again, this is about the tax code. This is about the tax code as a preventive control. You can add the tax code. Once you are able to plug in the tax code here, the GST returns are almost automatic. Not only GST returns, reconciliations up to the GSTR 1, 3B, 9 or whatever it is can be automated. Just plug in here properly. And these are all various codes that can be used. Okay, these are all about procurement to pay. I think I have some time. Can I, sir, up to what extent I can go, sir?
Still, how much time it will require,
Sir?
How much time it is required, sir?
10 more minutes?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So this is what I was talking about, procurement to pay. We have just seen the example. I'll just quickly run through. If preventive mechanisms fail or validation controls are weak, then what we need to do? What kind of detective mechanisms we need to do? I'll just quickly run through. Yeah, these are all, I've just put on procurement to pay, what risks are there, what is the effect of the risk, and how that risk can be mitigated. I've just put here. I'm just giving the example here. Now here it's talking about delay in purchases. From purchase request to purchase orders and approval process, the effect of risk is non-maintenance of various stock levels of minimum, maximum, safety, reorder, ERP will lead to shortage or excess inventory, thereby lack in requirement analysis leading to cost to the company. So what should I do? Initiate usage of material, that is material resource planning, a feature of automated trigger of purchase requests, and when reorder levels automatically goes on, that is no one can manually place an order. This is a preventive control. Now, as if this kind of system is not in place, if preventive fails, now detection has to come in. Now, what kind of detective analysis you need to make? This is what, once you are able to capture the information properly, only then the analysis works very well. If you are not able to capture the information, that's what we have seen in the initial slide of banking screen, where certain information is not captured, which are not mandatory in field. So if certain fields are not mandatory or not capturing information, or if the information is not properly captured, then you can't do any analysis. But still, whatever data you have, you can make an analysis and still work forward for preventive. From detective, you can move upwards towards detective mechanism, and then you can see instances of delay in PR approvals. You can just generate this. When is it raised based on the PR number? You can find out from PR number to the PO number when it is, the number of days it is delayed. Instances of PR to PO conversion delays. Then in the same way, purchase order raised for actual date of receipt of material is entirely different. Now what it can happen now? Yes, purchase orders are raised, but you can find there is a lot of delay in executing these. Which vendors? Or these vendors are related parties? Or these vendors are some other one which are related where advances are taken by them? PO is raised, advance is taken, but never amounts are supplied. And that's where we have seen 6,200 crores worth of banking frauds where the advances were made to the related parties for supply of material, never the material has entered into. Now we can find out those delays, meaning every amount, any payment is made that should be linked to the PO. Without PO, amount should not go out. That is a preventive. Once if prevention, that kind of validation controls are not there, if that is not a mandatory, then detective mechanism is take out all the vendor payments and link those things to the purchase payments or related, then you can able to find out whether the amount has come in or not. In the same way, you find POs open for more than 60 cases, you have raised PO, but nothing is moving on. Then you have duplicate vendors. This is the biggest nuisance even in Tally. We are coming across these. Why in Tally? Even in GST, when the Aadhaar card validations were not done, we have seen one proprietor creating multiple units, and even in banking, one proprietor is creating multiple business agencies. A proprietor creating multiple, like Ashoka Travels. This has happened in Indian Bank. Ashoka Travels, and then he creates another travels in same Indian Bank itself. In those days, they were not linked to the single ID, and where one customer was having multiple IDs. Now you can find here duplicate vendors are created. These are none other than preventive failures. That is, validation is not proper in these cases, meaning that if validation checks, meaning the name should be validated through a PAN number or Aadhaar or something else properly. And if this is not done, then you have the credit limits can go in a multiple way. Advances will go to some person, amounts will be, deliveries will be made from another person. The reconciliations will have a biggest challenge again. And list of documents where vendor's master is not available. Now, where base documents or PAN numbers and all are not validated properly. Now you have again duplicate material ID. This is another biggest challenge where they wantedly create multiple small changes in the item description so that they can enter multiple items and create multiple advances and create multiple purchases and then make fraudulent things. And this is the biggest area of fraud, and this is where the chartered accountants internal audits can work on very well onto this. And this is what I'm saying, when you are able to create a proper link here, this is where, when you're able to create a proper accounting here at this point of time, probably these kind of multiple items entering into the system can be avoided. Similarly, you have sample instances of same material being purchased at various rates from different vendors. You can find here. Meaning, again, there is a validation. Again, there is a preventive control failure. And if this preventive control failure can be easily can be managed with detective controls. And detective controls can be through maker and checker or through exceptional reports. What exceptional reports is, as you all know, that every day end in the banking, every day end an exception report is generated. But how many of our business clients, be it very big corporates, how many of these very big clients have a system of generating exceptional reports either on day end or weekend or month end or quarter end or year end or half year ending. So I say this is where we as a chartered accountants can move this exceptional reporting as a detective control mechanism, because if preventive controls, if the system doesn't allow multiple sellers for the same product at a different rate, the moment you enter at a rate which is already authorized, a budgeted rate, if it is crossing, the system will not allow, because the budgets are not there. This issue is coming here now. If budgets are one preventive step, that's where Jaykumar sir was talking about multiple layers of defenses, 5 layers of defense he was talking about. In the same way, in the system controls, in preventive system controls also, there can be multiple layers of defenses where through a budget, through a PO, through exceptional, through maker and checker, you can protect the much serious or critical areas. The same way again, you have here, I'm just running through quickly, fixed assets, null, yeah. So the role of internal audit is risk assessment, probably based on risk assessment, SA 330, 260 and 580 analytical procedure, audit test through compliance and substantive analytical procedures. Through this, you enter into SA 200, 230, 250, 300, all these as a part of audit test, compliance and substantive we carry out. And if there is a risk, we communicate through the management and agree, you provide or modify, you strengthen. So all these things are through the existing management assertions. We carry out all this process. So I just, yeah. So now the role of auditor. Now, if the systems are fully implemented, what should I do? I should rely more on exceptional reporting. I should check on disaster recovery methods. I should work on ML. I should work on AI. I should work on process controls so that I'm risk-free. If partially implemented, this is where the biggest challenge. Partially implemented is there is no integration properly, and this is happening in almost all the companies. It is bound to happen, and wherever partially implemented, we need to perform a lot of validations using MS Excel reports, MIS reports in Excel or spreadsheet or CAD tools. Then perform reconciliations, subledgers to TB, and various returns, various data coming from outside, and so on. Check whether alerts are properly made in case of deviations. So wherever it is partially implemented, this is the biggest area for the chartered accountants. And to my understanding, even biggest of the biggest banks have more than 20 softwares working, which are reporting for the financials, which are used in preparing financial reports. Meaning, we as a chartered accountants for a bank, if such a big banks, so many softwares are used, and you can understand what kind of value addition we can make. Similarly, for our clients where only Tally is used, SAP is used, and ETDS is done outside, GST is done outside, fixed assets is done outside, and so on and so on. Multiple processes are there. Then those multiple processes we have to validate, and probably you can suggest on preventive measures and validation controls. If nothing is implemented, and that's a big area of nuisance for the auditors, probably as challenges more, opportunities are also more for us. So role is, for example, we can, if systems are very well implemented, then still there is a scope for cash management, treasury operations based on receipts and payments data, cash retention limit you can talk about, economic order evaluation based on the freight data, supply chain management, just in time, then improving contract terms, conditions based on the analysis of various data from procurement to pay. This is what artificial intelligence, this is what machine learning is all about going to be in the days to come, wherein based on the data itself, the system will go on getting improved. Then various long pending deposits after contracts are terminated, like letter deposits, retention, you can make a lot of value additions into these areas. So finally, I say wisdom by experience, experience by application of ethical, technical, and professional standard. This is what Jay Kumar sir has started. Tone at the top. Tone at the top is ethical, moral. And if ethics, if you are driven by strong ethics, then automatically the technical professional standards will definitely improve upon. And that's what is said in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 269, which is the essence of Yeshu Sukteshu Jagrati. And that is nothing but Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sarisha Pasyato Mune. Mune is a word. Mune is referred to, Muni is a professional. Though the person who is called as a professional, what he does is what all beings consider as day is a night of ignorance for general, but for professionals like us is wise, and what all creatures see as night is a day for introspective stages. Meaning, the person who is professional, Mune, it is called as Muni, is professional, and for us, when everyone is sleeping, we are awakened, and that's the essence of our chartered accountant emblem. Thank you very much for your patient listening.
Sir, hello. Thank you so much, Premnath sir. So actually, first session speaker and second session speaker are not there. Can we take a few questions are left out? So how do you want us to do, sir?
I think to the extent possible, I can. To the extent possible, I try. I'm
Sure,
not that tech savvy like Rajiv sir, but let me try.
Thanks, sir. Just one second. Few questions are left out, so in between. Okay, so this question is from Jairati. So how do we change internal audit scope to access the IoT and AI developments implemented by companies?
As I said, it is the tone at the top. If management is interested in expanding the scope, if the tone at the top is very encouraging, if they really want to remove the risk, reduce the risk, IoTs will integrate the technical things into the financial processing. Just an example, the moment you don't clip your seat belt, there is a siren in the system, in the car. You don't remove for a bullet vehicle, you don't remove the stand, it doesn't start, meaning there is an integration. Now, the kind of integration that's going on, an ice cream vendor, if his ice cream packets are left in sun, the IoT will recognize that this product should not be in the open air for more than 2 minutes. If it is more than 2 minutes outside, that will send a signal to the decision maker to see that something else is going on outside, meaning that the technical products are embedded into the technology wherein the controls are well built into, meaning that the promoter should feel, the tone at the top should feel, yes, I need to evaluate these kind of things. If that is there, that's a good opportunity for the chartered accountants. And having said, it is the responsibility, I say it is the responsibility of the chartered accountant to go out and market for it. Like, we are not snakes. You know what a snake does? Snake will go and hide in a pit which is made by an ant. It doesn't make any, we are not snakes. We are like a bird. You can just look at a bird which picks up small pieces and then builds its own nest, a small sparrow. Now, if a small sparrow goes out and then picks and builds a big nest, so very good nest, then what is that we as a chartered accountants trying to do for our own profession? Now I'm sorry to say, we wait at our offices for the bank audit allotment. We wait at our offices for the tax audits, for GST audits and so on and so on. If this is a case, the GST and the income tax will be taken out by an engineer today on a clear tax kind of a tools. so many tools are coming out, apps are coming out, which is run by an engineer, not by a chartered accountant. So that's what is my answer. I hope I have answered it.
Next question is from Mukesh Gupta. So this is for Rajesh sir. As told, everything get commoditized after 12 to 14 years. What e-retailers plan to do next to remain in business, or plan to do something new?
No, what I'm saying is, I'm saying, see, the engineers, again, come back to the same, again and again, I'm referring at the cost of boring you. An engineer, a technocrat engineer, be it a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer or an EC engineer, they are migrating into software. They are migrating into software. Now, what are we chartered accountants doing into this area? When everything is getting migrated into IT, why are we closely sitting into one room, confining ourselves to a simple income tax not deducted, cash payments more than 10,000? This is my practice. GSTR 1, GSTR 3B is my practice. Is this the practice? Now I need to go out, meaning that when the world is changing, though I am a chartered accountant, when the civil engineer is moving into, an electrical engineer is moving into, I should also move into the technology. There is no other way.
Mr. R. Krishnamurthy. For a CA from the old school world, what courses or qualification would you recommend to upskill in terms of data analytics?
So simple. There are tools available. One and great asset of a chartered accountant is controls. I can damn sure challenge to anyone that there is no one else stronger in terms of controls better than a chartered accountant. So be that whatever technology it is, if I am able to understand the process, make it into bits and pieces, and find out cause and effect. We are more into cause and effect study for the finances. Yes, there are engineers who are into cause and effect for the material things. But even the materials are converted into rupees, and that rupees is handled by us. Having said this, what I'm saying is, be whatever it is the technology coming out, we are there as a process, we are there as a analytics on the controls. So we need to understand, yes, I need to understand how Excel works. I can learn, because there can't be a software which cannot be operated. If that is a software, it cannot be sold in the market. If you cannot handle an iPhone, they can't sell the iPhone. So if that is the case, we need to understand the basics, and then once you have understood one basic data analytic tool, the rest of the things will become easier.
Question is from Manjaya. Who is a big competitor in the field of internal audit for CA? What is the future of CA in internal audit?
Internal audit, as I've already shown you, as I've already demonstrated to you, legal is a biggest opening area, legal versus technical things. Technical things is another area which is opening up for chartered accountants. No one can compete in legal issues for us, and there is no breathiness. We can go forward. There's nothing less for us, and we have full opportunities. It is all about how you market. It is all about how we are able to market it. When Big 4, Big 5, and they are able to market it and survive. As I said at I'm sorry to say this, we are waiting in our offices for some empanelment related allotments. We should go out and market. There is scope for internal audit.
Mr. Doshi is asking, I am unable to understand the relevance for internal audit. So I think he is asking about the topic.
Which one, sir?
No, he is unable to understand race for relevance for internal audit. So the reimagine internal audit. So what is the race for relevance like that? He's asking.
That topic.
No, yeah, topic.
Yeah. See, as I've told in my presentation, the blockchain has been brought into by IBM for the supply chain management. And I'll take a few minutes to go deeper into it. Meaning what is blockchain is integration on single platform. Like SAP in your office, if two systems are integrated, like say for example, if without your fingerprint you can't walk into your office, meaning there is an integration between your fingerprint and the computer system and wage processing. Both, all these three are integrated. Now, internally you have integrated procurement to pay, wages, HR, so many things internally you have integrated. Yeah. Now something is happening at the logistics, third party, something is happening in department, income tax, something is happening in GST. How do you validate? If once you bring all those issues onto a single platform, and if all the parties involved into it enter into a contract, make that as a smart contract, whatever agreements you have, put those agreements, terms and conditions into a blockchain, the blockchain will integrate. Like say, for example, I'll call a Ola, I'll board into Ola, I'll get down at some place. The moment I get down, the amount is deducted from my account and taken into the account of Ola or into the driver account immediately. How is this? The agreement between the moment I have boarded Ola or I have downloaded the app, my contract, my smart contract is enabled with my banker, with my app, with my car vendor and banker and so on. Multiple agencies are integrated onto a small platform. The moment delivery is happened, all of them got their share of money. In the same way, when this is happening, what kind of controls a chartered accountant needs to look into? That is what the sir was, Rajiv sir was talking about. It is a big area of practice. We need to move into it. If you are not moving it, certain kind of organizations will move into it, and the only area left for us will also be occupied by someone else.
Mr. Hemant is asking, like, is there any necessity to have a coding knowledge to learn data analytics and other emerging technologies?
No, sir. No. We need not learn any kind of coding. Because today, as I've said, if operating iPhone is very difficult, then he cannot sell it. If working on Excel, you look at the Lotus 123, which is the original version of Excel. You look into that, and today's Office 365, yesterday's version, lot of changes are there, meaning it is oral commands. It's able to take the oral commands to execute. To that extent, Excel is developing now, meaning there can't be a software which is so tough. The softwares that what we work on are not the softwares to launch 104 satellites with one rocket. They are not like that. Please understand this. We need not understand any syntaxes. I said, if you are able to understand preventive, detective, corrective, and compensative controls, that is enough for us. And little bit of operating the system, it is enough for us to enter into this.
Mr. Sandeep is asking, sir, how to approach companies like 50 to 100 crores turnover for this type of internal audit?
Approach is, sir, so first of all, if you are there in market, people should know that you are there in the market. How do you people know that you are in a market? Best way is conduct some research, publish it in the web pages or publish it in the institute journals. Let people be aware of it. You take classes in the institute platform. Institute platform has given wide opportunities today. Institute is giving every opportunity for a learned member, for faculties, for research members. So you come onto the platform, you make presentations, people will come to know about you. And that's how you can approach.
All the queries, sir. So, and a lot of members are expressing their like a very nice presentation for all the speakers. And I, on behalf of Bangalore Branch and Audits Committee Board and the entire Managing Committee of Bangalore Branch, I wholeheartedly thank today's speakers, Paul sir, Rajiv sir, and Premnath sir for wonderful deliberations. And thank you so much all the audiences who attended today's session. So thank you one and all once again. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. All the best, sir.
We'll meet again tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.